Oh, good Lord. You think we'd have it figured out by now?
Actually, I thought it was pretty good.
I started it, and then I was like, I didn't start the stream. So I had to restart.
It's okay. I like the new background. Ignore the dog in the background.
You like it? I'm going to try and I want to find one each week and make the light match the color. So it's like I'm there.
Sure. Why not?
Gives it a nice ambiance.
Man, we got a bunch of people in the group chat tonight. Mike Kosicki's alive.
He is alive.
Glad to see he's
Thank
alive.
God.
Yeah. Hopefully he came home to a house full of eggs.
Dylan, Billy, Brendan.
Pun intended.
Gendra.
The Gendra.
Welcome, everybody. This is episode 116 of Snakes and Stogies, which is brought to you by BlackBoxCages.com. Right here. And Pewter Sound Pythons. Check both out, Facebook, Instagram, blackboxcages.com if you need to order a rack and a cage. We're biased, but we love Black Box Cages.
Yeah, and a very good friend of ours, the one and only Hen Dog, is actually, he's been building a room-size King Cobra enclosure for many months now, and he needed giant pieces of plexi, acrylic, whatever it is, and Black Box facilitated that.
Nice. Yeah, I saw messages back and forth. I didn't read them, but I saw the notifications popping up of Henry messaging them. Sometimes, if it's someone I know, sometimes I'll pop in the messenger and make some sort of rude crack at him or something.
Of course. Well, it's funny because he's been building this thing for a solid 6-7 months, and even before he's one of those guys that he doesn't want to get caught with his pants down. He wants to have the enclosure ready to go, and I know he has this particular one's for Mango, and the enclosure that Mango's in now could last him several more months, but
might as well just go ahead and get it done.
Yeah, well, he's got some more snakes coming in, and he wants to repurpose that enclosure. Gotcha. So and basically duplicate, if not triplicate, is that the right word?
Sure.
That same enclosure, and then make Mango's big room size enclosure. But he was getting the runaround on people cutting plexi, cutting glass, cutting acrylic, and I even sent him to Sea Serpents, and Chris was like, "Dude, I can do it, but it's going to be several weeks, if not months, because." We're back up. We're backlogged.
Yeah.
He's got to pump stuff out. So Black Box saved the day. Mr.
Dylan, which nub are you smoking? There's Henry. Henry's right there.
Hey, the Hen Dog.
He said he's having his first nub tonight.
Oh, nice. Nice.
I love all the nubs. Whether it's
the
Cameroon, the Maduro, the Habano, the Connecticut, they're all very good. My only gripe is I feel like you get about halfway through it and then they start burning hot.
Oh, yeah.
And it kind of takes away from I feel like I end up smoking only like half of it.
Yeah, well, it's like those Sosas that used to come out of Tampa or out of Ybor City and Tarpon Springs in that area. They were one of the greatest stubby, snub-nosed cigars around, but you had to smoke them slow,
Yeah. I love the blends on all four, though. Like, they're all rock solid. I think that Cameroon is honestly one of the best Cameroons on the market flavor-wise. Yeah, he's smoking a Cameroon. Nice. But yeah, the Maduro is phenomenal. The Habano is phenomenal. The Connecticut's awesome. Cameroon's great. You can't go wrong with any of them. And then they even have a Oliva Melanio, because Oliva's the one who makes the nubs. So that's an Oliva brand. They have a Melanio nub that's like a limited edition. And our rep gave me one not that long ago at the last event we had, and it was actually pretty good. I do love the Melania Maduros. That is one of my all-time faves.
Nice.
What are you smoking tonight?
I am actually. Well, I just got a message. Our guest is running a little behind. He's having technical difficulties. But we were talking about the Fire Stick last week, so I was like, "This is my last one, man," and I've been saving it for tonight.
Oh,
so.
Have fun with that. I don't know, man. Maybe it's just because I smoked so many of them when we first got them in that I'm just like, bleh.
Yeah, I think that's what it is, man. I think it's like a peaty scotch. You can't drink too much of it because it'll just be campfire over and over again.
Yep. I have Vietnam flashbacks to Ardbeg. There was one Christmas I went just a little too hard on that stuff, man. Now it's just, I don't know. That bottle's probably still at my buddy's parents' house. You struggling there? You got it?
No. I'm just giving it a little heat because this thing's really hot.
So that actually brings up a good point. We can get into some Stogie stuff real quick before
let's do it.
Terry Burwell's joining us tonight. Hopefully, if we get that. So, when you're smoking smaller gauge cigars like a Lancero, like a Corona, like what Phil has, you really want to shoot for, like, there's the single torch, like single flame torches work best for that kind of thing because you don't overdo it. When you use, like, you see those gigantic tabletop lighters that are like a welding torch, those are overkill for just about anything that isn't like a 70 gauge plus. So I'm at a point now where actually I've come to appreciate single and double torches more, like this little stick one I have that I actually freaking love. Just because you don't have to worry about overdoing it. You can, as odd as it sounds, you can burn the tobacco to where you're not getting really any flavor from it. You burned it too hot and you just taste sort of that charcoaliness to it.
Yeah.
The idea is, and even more so with like pipes and pipe tobacco, is you want to toast it. You want to burn it at the lowest temperature possible to where it's still combusting, like still combustible, but you're not charring it. You're not turning it into freaking glass. So with those guys, like especially thinner gauge cigars, they typically do tend to burn a little hotter. So you do want to burn them a little slower. They tend to, because they get hotter like that, you get that sharp point on the end of your cigar. If you ever get that point, that means you're smoking it too hot or you're smoking it too fast, which are pretty much the same thing. So the best thing is to just lay it down for a few minutes, let it cool off some, tap that ash away, and it should be good to go. But you can tell when it gets hot because it gets like this crayon like tip on the burning end of it, not the other end. But yeah,
I'm about a half an inch back on felt temperature, which is what I like on a skinny guy like this. But I don't know if anybody was noticing, but I did not draw any heat when I was lighting it. I was just kind of feathering that torch just because these things are just so damn hot. And I kept it about an inch away from the blue of the flame and just feather a little bit, give it a little rotate, feather it, and just get it warm enough. And then I took a draw and it lit right up. So I didn't actually draw in any viable heat per se. And I think that's the way that I like to take care of a really thin gauge.
And then when you see people blowing on the end of a cigar after it's lit, that's to see what's still not completely lit all the way. So you'll see some like black within the cherry. That's unlit tobacco. That's just not burning at the same temperature as the other. So the idea is to blow it gently and light it up sort of slowly. But yeah, sort of like that tip right there that Phil's dealing with. That's typically a sign if you're smoking it and it stays like that or gets worse that you're burning it too quick. So
yeah, I'm gonna give one more drag on this and probably give it a second to chill a little bit, just because I don't want that point to really start to kick.
And you want an even burn, because if you have one half lit and the other half not, like if you're looking at the cigar in like terms of a circle and you split that circle in half, if you have one side that's dark and one side that's lit, you're going to get that canoeing, which is where one side burns and the other side just doesn't. And that just means you didn't light it all the way. So
yeah, there's also a thing too. And I find this with it myself because I'm a cigarette smoker. We have a tendency to want to ash. And as you know, cockamamie as this may sound, you really shouldn't ash a cigar. You should let it fall naturally. If I'm correct, Justin.
Yeah.
So
so having that ash is actually a big part of like the temperature regulation and keeping it at a steady. It's not getting exposed to air, especially if you have like a fan blowing, which I do right now because the bugs are horrible down here right now. If you have it exposed to like open air and breezes and stuff, it's heating it up because there's oxygen hitting it. And like you would see with, if you ever started like a fire in your backyard, you blow air into it or you fan it, and that's what really gets it going. Same thing here. So if you have an ash on there that's nice and like if you tap it and it doesn't fall off, leave it. It's not ready yet. Like you want that ash on there because it's a temperature regulation in a sense. Like it keeps it where it needs to be, and it's just not ready.
So here, I'm trying to get.
What's up, Sid?
There we go. I actually fixed it. So now I don't have my little conical point anymore. It's more blunt. But you could see if I wasn't rotating this appropriately, I might start canoeing if I keep drawing as deep as I've been drawing.
Yeah. So. And sometimes canoeing is just a part of it. You know, premium cigars are handmade. I've said this before. There's going to be imperfections. There's going to be problems. It could just be the one you get, especially if you get like bundled sticks. They're typically not the best rolled. You get soft spots and stuff. And when you have that uneven sort of roll, the tobacco in those soft spots burns faster than the filler and stuff inside. So you get these funny burns and stuff like that. Sometimes it just happens, you know. But
yep,
the man of the hour.
There he is.
Oh man,
fellow TB. South Carolinian.
Howdy, everybody. I just had to dust off my old MacBook, download Chrome, figure out what my email password was, forward the link you sent from my text to my email to anyway. So I'm here. How's it going?
You did that in pretty good time. I'm not gonna lie. Like it's pretty.
Yeah.
Especially older Macs when they got to come in, they're like, "Oh, we have to update after like 3 years of not being updated, and we won't let you do anything else until you do."
Try 3 weeks.
Yeah. What's happening, guys?
It is Terry Burwell of TB Snakes.
It is.
Not a whole lot, man. We were just talking about cigars, burning them, lighting and burning them appropriately.
All right.
So you get the best experience.
Are you imbibing a vice this evening?
I'm not. I think I'll go get a glass of water pretty soon.
Ooh, living dangerously. You got some left over from Easter or something?
Yeah. No, we ate the coconut cream pie and we done. Nice. We're good to go. So, and I've been sick since like December, so I don't need any help.
Oh yeah, you were telling me about that.
Yeah, I don't know what it's been, but like the last 2 nights have been the first nights since December that I haven't like just been dying, coughing, taking cough medicine and everything else. So I don't know what it is. I think it's allergies, but you know, I don't know. Probably a combination.
Do other illnesses outside of COVID exist anymore?
Well, I know it's not COVID because every time I'd get tested for COVID, you know, almost hoping that that's what it was, you know.
Ebola and flu don't even matter anymore. It's not a thing anymore. It's all just you're bleeding out of your eyes. Oh yeah, that's COVID.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
your eardrums are ruptured and you're bleeding from those too. COVID. Yeah, I had my fun with that. I'm glad I made it out alive.
Mm-hmm.
That sucked. That was no fun.
Yeah. My dad almost died. It was like Christmas Eve, and he had it, and I called him and see how he was doing, and he said, "Well, you know, it ends when it ends." And I didn't know if he was talking about the virus or his life, and I was afraid of the answer that I would get if I asked for clarification.
Right.
You know? So I just kind of, but fortunately, he made it through. But it was touch and go there for a little bit.
Yeah, we had a regular work die from it. It's been probably 2 months now, but I mean, from literally like a week, you know, from being fine to no longer with us, you know, it's crazy.
Yeah.
I mean, he was older. He hadn't been vaccinated. He was like hardcore against vaccines and stuff, which I don't think that necessarily played a part. I mean, he wasn't in the best of health anyways, and he was older. So whether he would have had that or not, if that would have changed the outcome, I don't know. But yeah, it sucks. It's sad because him and another guy used to come every Thursday and hang out. And they'd sit outside, and I'd shoot the breeze with them and stuff. And it's pretty sad, but it's crazy.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Phil, how's it going down south?
It's going. It is it's a muggy, like 78, 79 degrees right now, and I'm not sweating yet because there's a little bit of a breeze on the tennis courts where I'm at. But Herpin just picked up, so. Anna Marie and I went out a little bit and found a bunch of Nerodia, and we got some funky weather. And other than that, getting you on the show, man. That's it.
Glad to be here. Yeah, thanks for reaching out. Cool, man.
So before I'm smoking a Liga H99.
Oh,
because we talked about Phil's real quick. I might be switching jobs here soon, so I figured I'd get a little fancy, and so I got me an H99. They're freaking good.
Excellent.
A little overhyped. I think they overhyped them a little bit. For like 2 years, they were advertising it in the magazines and stuff, but nobody had them. Nobody could get them. They had a lottery system where shops were like randomly picked for who got a box, and now they're coming out fairly regularly. But I think because they talked about it so much for so long that people kind of got this impression that it was of some sort of like mystery fantasy level, like great cigar. And compared to the 9 and the T52, like it's a Liga for sure, but it's not anything like those other two. It's different. It stands out on its own almost entirely. So
the third point of the triangle.
Yeah.
Excellent. Yeah, I think that when you have there's a certain level of hype to promote something, but when you don't follow through in a timely manner, it kills the vibe.
Yeah, you're really shooting yourself in the foot when you keep talking about it, but no one can get it.
Yeah.
And you do it for that long, people are gonna be disappointed. It's almost guaranteed. People are gonna be like, "This is what we waited for."
Yeah.
You know, like that last Tool album. Everyone was like, "Dude, yeah, finally a Tool album," and you get it, and it's not bad by any means, but it was severely watered down, in my opinion. It was kind of like, that's what we waited a decade for. So.
Yeah, that'll happen.
But
so, Terry, you got coals in the fire, my friend.
You do have a lot going on up there in the upstate.
Yeah. Where do you want to start? Yeah.
Well, I want to speak. I don't know if we should start with this or if we should do this in the middle, keep people in suspense. But you had some night vision camera work that I saw on Instagram. That was it was one of those times where you're holding the phone, you're like, what did Terry do? Oh shit. You know? And I'm pretty sure I did say that out loud, and my coworker's like, what the hell are you doing?
Yeah.
So, Do we dive right into that?
Yeah, I mean, that's part of what's been going on this year so far. So, I mean, how's 2022 been so far? I know you had a lot of stuff going, so.
Pretty good. So the video that you're talking about was my Ruscale python laid eggs a couple days ago, and I'd noticed that I knew it was coming up, and what's so interesting is she had her pre-lay shed on the exact same day as she had the last 2 years in a row, and
wow.
And she's just super consistent. It's super interesting to watch, and so I knew she was going to lay soon. She was really acting uncomfortable and everything. And I've got these Wise cameras, which if anybody doesn't know, are show me a better camera for the same amount of price. I mean, it's $20 for this camera.
You can get them at PetSmart now.
Are you serious?
Yeah. I was in my local PetSmart and I saw some. I was like, sweet. Now I don't have to buy them on Amazon anymore. I'm sure they were actually, I think, the same price too as Amazon. So
it's $20. You don't have to have a subscription. You throw a memory card in it, you can record, you can do time lapse, you can do all kinds of stuff. You can, of course, it's hooked up to Wi-Fi. You can check it anywhere you go. And so they've been great. And I'm really enjoying seeing how people use them, differently and for recording and stuff. And I've never seen snakes lay eggs in real life. And so I really wanted to record it. So I was recording her, every night I'd do a time lapse to see, maybe tonight's the night, maybe tonight's the night. And she wasn't laying. Day 27, and I knew she was close. We'd had dinner and everything, and I went in and checked. I knew she was close, turned the lights off, went and put my kids to bed, started reading a book, and then thought, I'll check on her. And I checked on her, from my bed, and she'd already had 10 eggs out. And I was like, holy cow, oh my gosh. Nice. And so I started the time lapse right there. And yeah, that's the video that you get. So if anybody's wondering, it's on my Instagram channel. Pretty sure I made a post. I'm pretty sure I made a post.
Yeah, I'm looking to pull it up right now.
Yeah, I was gonna say Justin looks like he's trying to pull it up.
Yeah.
And just to comment on the Wise
wireless keyboard.
The first time I had him was when we were we had bred some cobras at Underground, and they had bought like 15 or 20 of them for the farm to just put in random enclosures and get B-roll and whatever else.
Yeah.
And I was like, hey, let me get one of those and stick it in there. And the amount of stuff, oh, there we go. Look at that. The amount of stuff that they give you attach at different places in terms of suction cups and magnets and, you know, super sticky adhesive, you know, locking pieces. Yeah. And we made the mistake of putting it in the enclosure, like hanging it on the side of the enclosure, because the cobras knocked it off after the first night, and it was staring at mulch for the next 2 days. But
yeah, I've tried to put them in enclosures. I've never had success. Notice how she is not using the nest box. She has never used a nest box. I don't know what her deal is with that. She's never used a nest box, and she lays them all in a single plane. Where the first year, I thought I was going to do maternal incubation. I was real confident in that. And then she laid them in a single plane, and I don't know that I would have done maternal incubation or not back then, but it was nice that I didn't have to, like, I had an excuse other than just chickening out.
Right.
But I remember I was shaking when I was pulling the first ones, for sure. And then last year I totally screwed up, and she laid 22 eggs last year, and they were too big to fit in the egg box. So I tried to remove one of them, and it popped and just spread goo all over, you know, like half the clutch. And 22 eggs laid, 8 hatched. Wow. So that was a super kick in the nuts. This is a clutch of 15, and so I'm super happy that, you know, she's back on it. We got him in incubator, and the incubator's already lost power once. So, you know, in the week that they've been in there or less. So never a dull moment over here. But I'm hoping I have another female that I'm pretty sure is gravid. So hopefully we can get the whole video, the whole laying with her. We'll see. But
it's cool to see, like, the time lapse and see, like, them literally work their way down and out. You know.
Yeah, she lays them like a string of pearls almost. You know, it just comes out. And then when I went to collect them, so I was watching her. You know, I was upstairs. I was in my bed watching this video, and in real time, just like in awe. I was just like, dude, this is so cool. And then when she was done, you know, it was like, I don't know, 11:30 at night, whatever the clock says there. And I was like, all right, cool, she's done. I guess I'll go to bed. And I was like, wait a minute. Like, I'm not gonna wake up for like 7-8 hours. Like, I think I should go pull those eggs right now. And so
what can happen between now and then?
Yeah, my wife said, yeah, I think you should go pull those now. So I got up and went down and got them, but they were already adhered to the bottom of the cage. Ooh. So you know, I'm having PTSD from last year of, like, popping an egg, you know, and all these things. And so, but you know, like any good herpetoculturist, I went upstairs, got my dental floss, and came down and just saw it, basically, you know, use it as like a saw, so to speak, and saw them off the bottom of the cage. So, and it worked. And
that's some awesome MacGyver shit right there, because I definitely wouldn't have thought of that.
Yeah.
I've heard of people doing that with chondro clutches to split the eggs apart from a mass. You use that to like you said, cut them. I guess I've never tried it, but
except I don't think it's strong enough to actually cut an egg. And of course, you know, you use common sense, right? But you know, if you're pretty delicate, you can get it to unadhere from something for sure. Yeah. So so that was the latest excitement. That was pretty cool. That's my second clutch of the year. In February, I got a clutch of dogtooth cat snake eggs that I wasn't expecting, and I hadn't had the female paired with a male since before April of last year. And she laid in April, and then I think she laid again in June, and then she laid in January. Look at my records. And I didn't want her to lay eggs, right? Like I was already raising up babies, you know. And let me check and see, because I find it super interesting. So she laid in April, Then she laid in November, and then she laid it in February.
I
In
believe
April,
it.
she laid 10 eggs in April, and that was the last time that I paired her with a male, right? I paired her, she laid in April, then I never put her again with a male. In November, she laid 11 eggs, and then in February, she laid 7. And I just thought, she's gonna lay eggs no matter what, you know. So I fed her a big chicken and put the male in with her, and they were courting and mating last night. So, but that's
Cyanea
cool.
double clutched no problem, and that second clutch was just as solid as the first one. Like
that's awesome.
And did you pair them in between?
No.
Yeah.
Literally paired them once.
Yeah. It's so interesting. So my Barons racers did the same thing last year. She had a clutch, and then we moved, and I was keeping her on paper in the new place, and went to clean the cage, took the paper out. There's a clutch of eggs underneath the paper, and I was like, "Whoa!" You know, like it was a nice surprise for sure, you know. But I just wasn't expecting that at all, you know.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
The best surprises, man. The best surprises.
Yeah, I mean, you look at Boiga in particular, though, and it's really no surprise that they're as common as they are in their ranges and stuff, because those things are just freaking machines. Like they literally just crank out eggs and eat everything, and that's like that's their role.
I think I read a paper of a female having seven clutches in a year. With Boiga Cynodon, which just seems just astronomical. But I don't know. I mean, if you give them enough food, maybe that happens. I'm by no means trying to do that, but I'm so happy to finally be having success with them. You know, that's a species that I wanted for a very, very long time, from, you know, the kingsnake.com forum days when I was watching Bill Hughes, aka Vegas Billy, you know, on the forums talk about mangrove snakes back in the day. And he had a post on dogtooth cat snakes talking about this 10-foot long tame Amazon tree boa, you know? And I was like, that's what I want. And I was looking for him. And for a long time, importers didn't bring them in because they're so fragile, you know, compared to the melanata, that's much, much heavier bodied. And I got some wild caught ones in that was just a huge mistake. And then, and they all died within a month. And then I got in, I swore off wild caught. Said, I'm only doing captive born. Got some from Jordan, some babies, and they were great. It's just, I wasn't ready for them. I was treating them like Rhino Rat Snakes, you know, like, well, if you don't want to eat, I'll just wait. You'll get hungry, you know. Rhino Rat Snakes, you can do that. You can do that for months with a baby Rhino Rat Snake, and it'll be fine. Well, you do that for a week and a half with a baby, you know, Boiga Cynodon, and you're already getting pretty dire. So
yeah, my Cyanea initially came from Jordan as well, and his thing was like, don't let them go 2+ weeks without a meal. Like, put a tail in them. If they're not eating, just tail them, and then offer a pinky, and then if they don't take, repeat that until they finally do take. And it worked. I mean, the ones when he sent them to me initially, they had been eating pinkies, and he called it, because he was like, these are probably going to go off food again when you get them. And sure enough, they did. But it was only after like a month or so of doing tails that they went back to eating, and never had any issues past that. Like once they were going, they're going, you know.
Yeah, the Cyanea that I got from you are just, I mean, they don't turn their nose up to anything, you know. I just put it in there on the floor and they eat it, and they've been a joy. And with the so my adults that I got, the group that I have now, I bought from 2 different people, and I bought 2 females from somebody and a male from somebody else. And the male ended up being a female, and the 2 females ended up being a pair. So it worked itself out perfectly. But they were products of Jordan bringing those in too. And so after, you know, like my 3rd clutch, I emailed him, and because as I know, I don't think he's bringing anything in anymore. And I emailed him and just said, you know, thanks for for being the impetus, you know, to bring these in, to allow me to work with these, because I really wanted to, and I was happy to share that they didn't all die, you know. Like it seems like we've got a population that we can continue with, and the knowledge, you know. I mean, it wasn't so long ago that if you're talking Boiga, you're talking Cyanea, Melanata, and maybe Dendro, you know. And now, I mean, my goodness, you can get just about anything you want, you know. You were talking about like Chelenensis and Guangxiensis and Drapezii and all these super tiny ones that we never even would have dreamed of getting in, you know, not too long ago. And now we're getting, you know, captive born ones and growing them up. So as far as legislation keeps off, I think the future is super bright for Boiga species in the United States finally, you know.
Yeah, Europe's, man, they've got all the, you know, if you're in any of the Boiga groups on Facebook, like the people in Europe, they got all the, like everything, you know.
Yeah.
And it's, I did want to pursue the genus more, but just because of the potential for the incoming legislation and I guess just putting focus in other areas, you know, the Cyanea, whenever you give me the word, you know, they're going up to you. So
sure, yeah.
But yeah, I mean, I was very tempted to put them together again, but just with everything else that I've got paired up, I was like, I'm just gonna not put myself through that. You know, there's already going to be a lot going on.
Yeah.
Last thing I need is to be having a tail, you know, 12, whatever, you know, little worms. So.
Yeah. I've been assist feeding like 20, you know, baby Cynodon, and I assist feed them up until they're big enough to eat quail, and then they take off on quail. All right. You can tease feed them, but tease feeding 20 snakes takes a long time, you know, and I just don't have time to do all that. And assist feeding has been pretty good. And yeah, I've tried a lot of different things. And then a couple months ago, I thought, you know, they eat eggs. Like I've fed them sparrow eggs that they've eaten. I fed them finch eggs for their very first meal. One clutch, I ordered some finch eggs, fed them for the very first meal right after they shed finch eggs, and 100% of them ate. And so I thought about what would happen if I assist fed them a hard-boiled egg, you know, just cut it up into slivers and assist fed them. Sure enough, they ate it. So
have you ever tried just leaving pieces of hard-boiled egg out and see if they eat them?
Yeah, I've done that. Not the sample size is small, right? Like I've done that a couple times. I haven't done that, you know, over and over and over again. I've done it a couple times and had not had success. But you know, assist feeding them, it seems like one, the smell is not offensive, whereas like the smell of a mouse, you can tell offends them. And sometimes that works in your favor if they, you know, are aggressively, you know, want to chomp down on it and continue eating it. But a lot of times it doesn't, you know, and those ones that get offended by it, those are the ones, you know, that need to eat almost more than any of the other one, you know, those shy ones.
Yeah.
And so I was washing the pinkies. I've been doing that and had some success with that. But as strange as it sounds, the legs on the pinkies were like, it was, you know, I mean, assist feeding is pretty precarious anyway, right? Where you're just sitting still, you're trying not to move, you're trying not to like give them any reason to think that they're in danger or being watched or anything to spit it out.
Look them wrong.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
And then they get to the front legs, and some of these pinkies have like, you know, rigor mortis front legs that are sticking out. They gotta like work away. It's like an obstacle, and I feel like it's just one more obstacle for them to pause and then spit it out. So here I am, like cutting off baby pinky legs, you know, before I'm feeding them. It's like, this is kind of a lot. And I thought for the mass of egg that I, you know, hard-boiled egg that I could feed, certainly that's got to be equal to or greater than the, you know, the value of a pinky mouse, right? And we go on and on about how terrible a pinky mouse is in terms of prey, right? Especially a frozen thawed, like how much like protein and phosphorus and like how much actual goodness is there, right? And so anyway, it seemed to be a good texture for them, and it's super cheap, man. I mean, eggs are way cheaper than mice right now. So yeah, I've been doing that and been having some success with that. So it's been neat to experiment, see all that. But once the new building's all up and everything, and I get caught up, I'd really like to start raising finches, so that I can have finch eggs and finch eggs and button quail. I really want to raise those.
Yeah,
and see if we can't utilize those as prey sources.
Have you tried doing blood pinks or like day old pinks in the wash, the egg wash? Excuse me.
Like a Heloderma soup?
Yeah, well, basically, like there's been times when I've had troublesome arboreal stuff where, they can only take a pinky head and braining doesn't work. So I'll literally scramble up some egg for a Gila monster and then take my tweezers and dip that pinky head in scrambled egg mush, and that just gets it,
Yeah. I have to try that.
Man, I tried dart frogs with those baby cyanea. Like the first clutch, I had all those Vitatis, and I was like, you know what? I've got more than enough of these things. Let's give one a shot, and it got completely ignored.
Yeah.
So
I tried a spring peeper. I thought for sure a spring peeper would work, and I threw a spring peeper. And again, sample size was super small and nothing. I've got a morning gecko colony. I put 5 morning geckos in this enclosure with 10 baby cynodon, and a couple months later I pulled 6 or 7 morning geckos out, like they didn't eat any of them. And just watching them. And this is another thing that I think there's no, like, I'm really curious as to what they're eating in the wild. I have a feeling like eggs totally make sense because they don't run away, and some sort of insect, whether it be, arthropods, slugs, stuff, something like that, because they're not fast. And this is where I was strong. They're definitely not strong. No. And I thought, and they're terrible. Like their strike accuracy is terrible. So I was thinking, as I'm watching them like inspect these morning geckos, I was like, the morning geckos are nocturnal, the snakes are nocturnal. I was like, there's no way that this snake is going to catch a nocturnal gecko. Like there's just no way. So maybe sleeping diurnal lizard, but even then I'm like, I don't know, man. That lizard would have to be in some deep REM sleep, for this snake to get it, because I just don't see it. And there was a giant. I went outside the other day. There was this giant slug, and I was half tempted to pick it up and see if put it in there and see if anything would happen. But
if I could throw my 2 cents into it, I would say to stay away from the slug, because having kept stuff like Hispida that are slug eaters, and then trying slugs and snails on other animals, a lot of stuff goes to eat it because it's appealing to them. It may be the scent, maybe the appearance, whatever. But then as a defense mechanism, the slug lets out more slime, and the snake gets all messed up, and it's like,
Yeah.
But I also was going to say is there's a ton of footage, like recent over the past couple of years, of different Highland Tramercerus species snagging diurnal lizards while they're in sleep.
Oh yeah.
And it's almost like the snake, the viper grabs the lizard, whether it be some kind of a null species or whatever they have in Southeast Asia, and the lizard's like, "What just happened? Oh my god, I'm being eaten! Oh,
I'm dying!"
Like there's by the time they realize that they got nabbed, there's no escape at that point.
Yeah.
So I don't know, man. Maybe if you could find some really tiny anoles.
I had a little bit of success with scenting with Turkicus gecko.
For the cyanea, right?
Yeah. We had, so on the building at work, we have a pretty healthy colony of Turkicus that have been reproducing for years. And so there was a point where me and Jake caught a few of them, and I tried to raise some, but I had them in a tank that didn't work very well, and so they ended up escaping somehow.
Oh, par for the course, right, Phil?
Yeah, but I ended up freezing 1 or 2 of them, and I would scent with that, and it seems like that worked fairly well compared to other stuff.
They make these things called cage clips, just FYI.
Well, this was like some yard sale tank I found that had a permanent lid on it, and I tried to like hot glue the gaps and stuff, but apparently I didn't do it good enough. I don't know. It was a very half-assed attempt at trying to do that, but there's just so many of those geckos and stuff, and the babies are tiny and the adults are a decent size, but that seemed to work. I got better results from that than I did pretty much anything else. So,
yeah.
But I think it's just, for me, I just did what Jordan pretty much said was, tail them, offer food, tail them, offer food, tail them, offer food until they take off again. And that always seemed to work when with the 2 clutches I hatched out. It was a pain because there was a few of them that definitely seemed to figure out the trick I was pulling with pinning them and putting a tail down them. But,
yeah. And even Cyanea, I know they're so much more durable than the Cynodon. And my first baby Cynodon, the ones I got from Jordan, they were juveniles, but they weren't like babies,
Right.
And I thought, yeah, man, I'm gonna get a rat tail and coat it in the egg yolk and put a rat tail down its, and that's a pretty good way to kill them. And I don't know if they just have a more sensitive, lining or whatever, but I recommend nobody like force feeding Cynodon. I was like, just don't do it. And one, you really don't need to, because like I said, I've seen enough of them now that they're not difficult to feed, like I said, you can tease them, or, assist feeding has been great. I've assist feeded, pieces of frog leg, the reptile lynx, the pinky mice, the eggs now, like they will eat, to where I don't think that assist feeding is necessary. And, it's another one of those things that I feel like we're always weighing the benefit of the calories of assist feeding against the stress of doing that. Right. And assist feeding is, I feel like I don't want to force feed anything anymore, but my first, those babies that I got initially, I was force feeding them, and because that's what I had done with Rhino Rat Snakes. I'd force fed, pinky heads to those for several years, with different clutches. So I was like, yeah, another baby snake, sure, and find out that they're not all built the same, And so now I guess this is my, my graduation as a keeper, as my education. Cause I don't force feed Rhino Rat Snakes either anymore. So
I do everything in my power to not force feed. And to be honest, I do everything in my power not to have to assist feed.
Yeah.
Just because I'm that guy that the seesaw is heavily weighed on the stress level.
Sure. Yeah.
So,
yeah. So, with chondros and stuff, even that clutch of chondros I had, I assist fed tails for some of them that just wouldn't take off. And it was just like the way at the time, like we had Cody Bartolini on or something at one, not either just before or not long after. And I was kind of in agreement with him where it's like, you can sit there and beat the hell out of him with a pinky for 20 minutes, or you can grab him for 30 seconds, throw a tail in him and put him back and have it, be done and over with. So that was kind of the approach I took, and that seemed to work fine. And after a while, you do get pretty quick at just getting it in, putting them down, moving on to the next one. And then sort of making your way back through to make sure everyone at least kept it down, because sometimes they would give it back. But yeah, it's definitely not, I wouldn't recommend it for everything. For the Cyanea, it worked well. Those things are pretty tough little worms.
Yeah. So. Yeah. And I feel like this is part of the evolution of the hobby, right? Like you just try to figure out either one, you line breed things or you selectively breed things to eat what we have available, right? Like your Antaresia species that eat mice now, right? Like other people did that for us, right? Like we can thank the barkers for that, and like all of that the reason that our Antaresia eat rodents now is because of the work that had been done in the past and the line breeding that's come in there. And so I think this is kind of like the evolution of it. And in the case of in the case of Boiga species, in particular, just I feel like, my goodness, if they'll eat eggs, let's feed them eggs, and I like birds, sure. So let's grab some zebra finches and do it. I was trying to buy eggs, but my goodness, the Dasypeltis guys have made a market for zebra finch eggs, and the zebra finch breeders are taking full advantage of it. Oh dude, they're charging like $3 an egg plus shipping.
Wow.
And these eggs, I mean, you can fit 2 of them in a teaspoon. I mean, they're like an M&M, and not a peanut M&M, like a regular size M&M.
Yeah.
And so, but yeah, I'm really curious to see, the difference in the growth and all that stuff,
Well, it's funny you mentioned the zebra finches, because that was definitely an idea I was going to bring up to you. But my mom bred zebra finches my entire life, and
cool.
She only had, I think, 2.2, and she was literally raiding the nests every 10 to 15 days, I think, depending on the time of the year. And the only thing I could say is that she threw away so many eggs. If you could find a way to freeze them or like do like a deep refrigeration and hang on to them, you're gonna make out like a bandit. However, she did, and I hope she doesn't get mad if she hears this, she did develop a calcified stone that's attached to her lung from unknowingly breathing in all the bird crap over the years.
Really?
Yeah.
Interesting. Just from 4 birds? Just from 4 birds, or did she have others?
Well, she would have certain birds for a little bit in here and there, but she I mean, I don't think she ever had more than 5 or 6 birds at any given time, at least when I was growing up. But she would clean the cage methodically because she didn't want seed everywhere and poop everywhere. And after, I mean, I was probably 14, maybe 15 at the time. And she had gone in for, a checkup or whatever. And the doctor's like, I hear something weird in your chest. She's like, can we do an x-ray? She's like, of course. And like, there's this stone. And they're like, it's not in your lung, it's on your lung. And it seems to be calcium. She's like, and it's like, your oxygen levels are good. Everything's good. But then the doctor basically attributed it from breathing that in, because other people like in bird farms and stuff, that, have thousands of birds. They all get this calcified crap in their lungs from breathing it in.
Interesting. Wow. Yeah, Eric had a good point with the hornworms. That could be interesting. Trying hornworms.
It seems too, like, of all the Boiga, especially, like Cynodon seem to be very heavy into the avian prey in comparison to Melanota and Cyanea and all the other smaller species and stuff.
Yeah, even my adults, I'll put chicken eggs in the cage, ad lib, just so that they have, and my male's eating 5 chicken eggs in a sitting, and it's really cool to watch them eat that, and to be honest, I mean, baby chicks aren't very expensive, but I feel like the prices of everything is going up, over the last couple of years,
without a doubt,
and and man, eggs are I mean, it's just about the easiest prey source you can find, so
right. How do the babies Cynodon react to the resisting of the prey? Because like Eric mentioned hornworms. I think it's a fantastic idea, but I just was thinking hornworms, when they get preyed upon, they thrash around a lot, and they have all those sticky legs, and they'll kind of curl it around, and obviously a gecko doesn't care. A gecko just shakes it off. But I wonder if that might be how well does that entice them to eat more because the prey's fighting back, or is it
I don't know. That's a good question. That's a really good question. I don't know the answer. Not having giving them an opportunity to, express any of that behavior, I really don't know how they would react. So,
yeah.
But
how long was the incubation on the Cynodon?
107.
Okay.
Let's see here. 102 days, 111 days, 107, 108, 107. So my average, it's right there around 107 or so.
And did yours come out the top of the end of the egg? Because I noticed with the Cyanea, a lot of them, instead of just coming out like the middle, like you would see with corns or really any other snake, and it seems like this is the case with a lot of the true Gonyosoma too. So your Oxys and your Jansseni, they come out like the end of the egg. Like for whatever reason, that seemed like the exit point for pretty much all of them.
And I wonder, so all of those species have really oblong eggs, and I wonder if that's more a reason for that more than anything else is, if you're pushing up against something, you're naturally going to find the corner, right? And the corner being the end. So yes, they came out of the end of the egg, but I wouldn't say it was a hard and fast rule of, that was where they all exited from, and there wasn't any slices in the middle of the egg. I don't necessarily think that's true, but I did have a couple with this last clutch, dead in the egg, and you could tell that they had tried to slit the egg, but they were on the bottom of the clutch. So like where they were trying to pip was directly underneath another egg. So they're basically pipping into another egg. And I think they just ended up drowning. So so for going forward now, I think I'm going to take greater precaution with those eggs that are underneath, that once everything starts hatching, to make sure that those ones have an exit, so that they don't pip into another egg.
The shells on mine seemed unusually thick in comparison to other eggs too that I've had my hands on. Like it was
super thick. Yeah,
it was kind of. I had a handful die in the egg as well, and I kind of wasn't all that surprised, because it's like, they've got to have a hell of an egg tooth to be able to cut through this, because it's just ridiculous.
And yet they do. I've never pipped a single one, and I've never manually, cut open a single one that was alive, and it blows me away every time that they can get out, because there's just a super weak, fragile, frail little snake, and they make it. They make it, man. So
do you think the thickness of the egg wall is attributed to prey and or calcium that mom takes in prior to pairing or prior to laying or whatever? Because like Chris Panshop was telling me about the Metratus. He's like, once you start doing breeding season, he cuts off the calcium, because the dusting of the crickets is just too much for them to produce an egg that's hatchable. And he's had several geckos not be able to get out because the egg wall is just that thick.
That's interesting.
Yeah.
I know in one of the papers, back in the day, one of the papers about Cynodon, they had mentioned, I think it was Cynodon, either Cynodon or Cyanea, actually. It could have been Oklahoma Zoo Cyanea, but they had talked about the eggs being super thick, and almost attributing it to, if it was attributed to the calcium in the water, right? I don't think that's true. I think we've learned more than that. I don't think that's necessarily true. So yeah, whether it's and then I don't know if it's necessarily too much calcium, right? So being that snakes eat whole prey, how can they, this is why snakes suffer from so few vitamin deficiencies, right? Is because they eat whole prey items. So I don't know. That's over my head. I mean, I don't, I'm not sure, but I would find it hard to believe that a snake would get too much of any vitamin eating whole prey, And I've had people, I can't believe how many people have cautioned me from feeding them eggs. And it's like, oh man, you shouldn't feed them eggs because they'll get fat, or you shouldn't feed them eggs because it's too much calcium, or you shouldn't feed them eggs because they're deficient in some way, right? And I just think, okay, first of all, there's never been a fat dogtooth cat snake in the history of the world. Like it just doesn't happen, And like, how can they don't digest most of the shell. So in the urates, you can see it looks like mostly shell. So I feel like being too much calcium doesn't jive. And then anyway, I like it. I'm gonna keep doing it.
Let me ask you this, and not to get morbid, but of the Cynodon that you have had pass that were of necropsiable size, did you necropsy them and see if there was any high concentration of fat at all? I mean, despite them being an extremely lean snake in appearance, it wouldn't shock me if it's something like some of the pseudonausea that have like marbling of fat, and not just the fat like we expect to see in between muscle.
Right. Yeah. So even a healthy adult Cynodon, if you hold it up to the light, you can see through it. So, and then the adults that I got that I said died, the problem with them wasn't necessarily, the problem with them was that I got them from Joe Switalski. Like that was the problem. Like they were dead. They were dying before I got them. Right. And the best looking one lasted 4 days. Right. So they had a lot going against them when I got them. They were already well behind the 8-ball. But so yeah, to what you're saying, even though they're a lean animal, I mean, certainly they've got to have some sort of reserves, because that's what makes follicles. It makes eggs, right? But I don't see. I've never been able to get one too heavy. I'll say that. Like they have a fast metabolism. They defecate a lot, and they're pretty active. They're rarely sedentary. At night, the only time I see them really sedentary is approaching a shed, and then right before egg laying. So I don't know. I've never cut one open. But I did have some necropsy. Those from that I'd gotten from Joe. I did send those to Florida for necropsy, but I don't remember any. Of course, they wouldn't have mentioned anything in terms of fat reserves, since that wouldn't, that kind of be irrelevant to to the study.
And it doesn't strike me as a species that's going to retain anything that's not necessary. Does that make sense?
Right. Yes. Yeah.
We hear about many species that hold on to a particular vitamin for a particular reason, and then other species that say, no, you know what? I'm healthy enough. I'll just poop it out. So.
Sure. Yeah.
I was talking to someone at one point about the eggs and the thickness of the shells in Boiga in particular, and I don't remember who it was. It might have been Nipper, might have been Rob Stone, but they had someone had mentioned something about possibly they were thicker because of environmental conditions, like
and they have
where they come from being so wet or it being drier, and that somehow helps protect them from one of those two extremes, which made sense to me.
Yeah, that makes sense to me.
And is there some sort of correlation with length of incubation? Right. So
right.
Are monitor eggs thick? Are monitor eggs is like a similar thickness, right? Because if you think of it like the thinnest shelled snake eggs, I think of python eggs, which have the shortest incubation period.
Mm-hmm.
And so I wonder if that's part of it too, in that, like I know Mollendorfi have long incubation periods, some of these Southeast Asian rat snakes, and they have long incubation periods and really thick shells. So is that the reason why, right? Like, is it a protection,
right,
from desiccation, or, the fact that, you're going 100 days for incubation. That's more than one. That's either a full season or more than one. You know what I mean? There's a lot of temperature variation that can occur in 100 days, almost anywhere in the world. So yeah, super interesting. So
yeah, it reminds me of like most of the Dramarchon eggs that have like I don't even know if you'd call it amniotic fluid that crystallizes on the outside of the egg and forms like almost dragon skin, where the egg is it's abrasive to touch, it's very, very abrasive. And, they talk about how it repels moisture because of the different surface area on the outside of the egg. It actually beads moisture away. And it also is a deterrent from predators, because when an animal goes to put the egg in its mouth, it's spiky. But at the same time, it could be a very similar ecosystem.
Mm-hmm.
So granted, you have areas that are more highland where a lot of these, Dramarchon are laying, but you also have a little swampy yuck,
Sure.
So,
yeah.
And that's a thick egg. So I don't know.
Yeah. I know. Have you handled crocodile eggs?
No.
They feel like glass. Like when you rub them together. I mean, when you rub them together, like they're like glass. They're not leathery like a snake egg or a lizard egg or something like that. They're harder than that, but they're not like a chicken egg either. But in Australia, I worked at a crocodile farm for a while, and we like I was able to collect some eggs there, and it's just the texture and the feel. I mean, they just were so different than anything that I'd ever experienced. It was really, really interesting, really cool. And after they pulled them, So the way that they would process them is after they would pull them, that you put them in a bucket, and then you would fill up this other bucket with a diluted antifungal solution, and you'd fill the bucket full, and then you'd take the bucket with the eggs in it that had all these holes in it, and you would completely submerge the bucket of eggs in this antifungal solution. And the first time they told me to do that, I was like, I'm not doing
that. This isn't okay.
Yes, yeah. This is not, like, that's how you kill eggs. It's like, I'm not doing that. And they said, no, it'll be fine. And they completely submerge it in this antifungal solution. I don't remember the time, whether it was 30 seconds or 15 seconds. I don't remember that. It was a while ago. I don't know. It could have been 3 minutes. I don't know. But yeah, they would do that before they pulled them out and set them up in the incubation. Yeah.
Wow.
I still remember that. I was just like, I wouldn't do it the first time. I was like, there's no way I'm putting those eggs underwater. There's no way. And so they had to do it for me. And this is just how we process them. So
wow.
Yeah, super cool. Super cool. But
how's the go ahead, Phil.
I was gonna say, I get nervous wiping an egg off with blue Chlorohex on a paper towel, let alone dunking it. Oh,
yeah,
jeez.
Yeah. Well, I got a kick out of listening to man, who was it? I don't remember. It was Ron St. Pierre, I think, who was talking about maybe San Diego Zoo was one of the first zoos that learned how to hatch Burmese python eggs. They had a Burmese python that laid eggs in its enclosure, and most of them were in the water feature. And so they rescued them from the water feature, and those are the ones that hatched, because they weren't incubating them in a high humidity environment before. And then that was like the click that was like, oh, okay, they need higher humidity.
The missing piece. Yeah.
Yeah.
Interesting.
Yeah. So
interesting.
But yeah. Were you gonna ask me about the building?
Yeah, how's the building coming along?
It's coming. It's coming. So I finished I started the drywall for the small room. So the building is 14 by 36.
Wow.
It's got 3 rooms in it. There's the main room is 14 by 18. That's what I call the main room, the warm room. That's where most of the collection will go. And then the inner room is 14 by 10. That's where the diamonds and the rhinos will go. So that'll be a cooler room. And then the final room it's 14 by 8. And that'll be the rodent room. I was thinking that it would be rodent room / quarantine room. Although I don't know how smart it is to keep your quarantine stuff in with the food that you're feeding everything. So I think actually what I'm going to end up doing is having the quarantine be in my garage. There's actually a complete separate building and everything. And then that'll just be the rodent room. But the way the building is, the only 2 doors are on the ends. So you can't access the small room, which, rodents or quarantine or whatever it is. You can't access that room with any of the other rooms. It's blood, sweat, and tears, man. I tell you, it's been. I researched it a lot at getting a prefab building, that I could just bring in and then finish myself. And for the standard size on these, tough sheds or whatever these sheds, that you get delivered is 12 feet. And the reason it's 12 feet is because that's how wide the roads are. So you can get a wider shed, okay? But it requires a oversized load permit, which requires more like a pilot car, and it requires more, so it costs more. And so I really wanted it to be wider than 12 feet. And then I was initially thinking 28 feet. So dimensions are generally in denominations of 4, right? So you're 12 feet, you're 16, you're 24, you're 32. And that's because lumber comes in 4x8 sheets.
Mm-hmm.
All right. And so I was initially going to go like 12 by 28, and then it was 14 by 28. And then I was looking at the space, and I thought, well, why not just use all the space that I had in this section of the yard, which would be that 14 by 36. And so that's what I did. And I think building it, Billy, what's up? Nice. So That's what I did. And then I also wanted to build it portable. I don't know that it is portable, but I built it on blocks. So it's not on a solid foundation, but I built it on blocks. There's over 300 concrete blocks that my 70-year-old, mother and father helped me carry down the hill from this road to the backyard in the rain, no less.
Nice. Uphill both ways.
Yeah, they came out. My mom is a very go-getter, just do it. What are we waiting for type person. And she knew, we bought the house in the end of June, moved into July. And she was just like, have you built your building yet? Have you built your building yet? Like, what are you waiting for? Just do it. Just do it. And so next thing I know, they're coming to visit. And so it was like, they basically came. Yeah, they came to help me get started. And so that was a huge help. I needed that, right? So while they were here, we were able to do the foundation, get the floor completely done. We insulated the floor with 2, 4, 6, I think 6 inches of rigid foam. So the floor is completely insulated. And then I was building the trusses when they left. So then, we got the trusses and walls up. What I did is I searched the internet for shed plans, and then I expanded them. If you're going to build something of that size, I would recommend searching for house plans and shrinking them. Because, and the reason I say that is because sheds aren't built to be insulated, right? Nobody really cares if a shed is insulated or if it's finished or if it has power, or especially if it has water or anything like this. And so the gable ends, especially, my walls go up. The 2x4s are, perpendicular to the sheeting, but my gable ends, because of the way I built the trusses, the 2x4s are flat to the sheeting, right? And so it makes it much more difficult if you're gonna finish it with drywall, if you're gonna insulate it and then put drywall over it, because now instead of having a 3.5 inch wall, you have a 1.5 inch wall because the 2x4s flipped. And so that was just one of these hurdles that I had to, like, oh crap, like, okay, how am I going to do that, right? And then the other thing,
could you have put another piece of 2x4 perpendicular to it?
Yes, or just sandwich it, right? So what I ended up doing on the interior walls for the gables, in between the cool room and the rodent room, and in between the cool room and the hot room, what I did is I finished it all the way up to the ceiling, because I'm going to leave it open. I'm not drywalling the ceiling. I'm not drywalling the rafters or anything, right? It's just going to be open. And so for the gable ends, I sandwiched a 1/2 inch piece of plywood and then another 2x4, so that it was a full 3.5 inches. And then and then I had them spray foam in between that on the gable ends. So the entire exterior and the roof are all open cell spray foam. And I just finished hanging the drywall in the rodent room. So now the drywall needs to be for the other 2 rooms, then mudding and taping and then painting. The electrical's already been roughed in. Water it's already got water and power running to it. And the electrical has been roughed in. And then after the drywall is done and it's painted and everything, then I'll have the electricians come back out and they'll finish it.
Nice. So, yeah, because I'm glad you brought up the whole insulation thing, because I was curious about it, because you're having a hot room, you're having a cool room, you're having a normal room,
right?
How you were going to feather that insulation? Is it going to be the same density on both the cool and the hot, but one has lamps and the other one doesn't, or is it tailored to the ecosystem, so to speak?
So everything is insulated the same, meaning the entire exterior is insulated the same. There's like 5.5 or 6 inches of open cell foam on the ceiling, and there's 3.5 inches on the walls. And then the interior walls are insulated with rock wool. And I thought for the longest time about making the interior walls built out of 2x6s instead of 2x4s to give them that extra thickness. But I'm planning on installing Mr. Cool ductless mini split and heaters that, and I'm doing a 3-zone, so every single room will have its own air handler.
That's awesome.
And each one of those air handlers could handle the entire building, let alone, the one room that it's in. So the temperature control is definitely overbuilt. And I don't think it's going to be, knock on wood, I don't think it's going to be a problem, but it'll be interesting. It'll be interesting to see, how much of a fluctuation can you get between, can I get my diamonds and rhinos down to 55, when my warm room is, 85 in the daytime, I don't know if we can have that, is it going to start raining in the doorway, with the hot air and the cool air? I don't know.
Yeah, you're gonna be in the rat room and just start hear thunder.
Yeah. I'm really sweat. I've heard that with a lot of people that when they build these rooms and having it so warm inside, the walls would sweat, from the condensation. I'm hoping with the open cell foam and having enough air circulation in there, I'm hoping that they don't sweat. But I'm taking precautions, like all the drywall I'm using is mold resistant, what you would use in a bathroom,
right?
That drywall. And but
that's good.
But super pumped. I'm so pumped for. I got sinks in there. I've got a hot water heater.
Nice.
And I was like this close to putting a shower in it.
Well, you could always put like when I had my ice cream shop, we had a shower in the back of the ice cream shop, but it wasn't like for you to take a shower, and it was basically like just a section of tiled floor with like a little with like 6-inch wall so it didn't spill over, so I could like watch out mop buckets and everything.
A lot of grocery stores have those in the back rooms.
Yeah.
And that could be very helpful. So, and I will say this, when I first got my hot room that I have now, it took me a little while to feather the temperature because I was pumping in super cold AC to get the cross breeze and to have a good night drop. And I got major condensation at like dusk and like into nightfall, and it would drip and there'd be water all over the floor, and the drywall got all weird and wobbly because of that. So I went up putting like drip pans on top of vision cages and stuff. Wow. I would say definitely put like a paint roller pan or something there for the first couple nights until you figure out, you know what I mean?
Yeah. I really hope that doesn't happen.
Better safe than sorry, you know. I mean,
absolutely. Yeah.
I mean, I didn't have like massive condensation everywhere. Like there was no beer can on the room, you know, but I definitely got a good amount of condensation from the actual AC vent itself where the cold air was coming out. So
yeah.
I'm
excited about it.
How did you determine what size you wanted to upgrade to, though? Because that's sort of where I'm at. Like, I want to do a separate building at some point, be it a shed or something similar. But my concern is, so Katie doesn't want me to get anything too big. Obviously, I don't want something that's going to take up the entire backyard, but I also don't want something too small. I don't want to go through all of this and shell out all this money for something like this, only to move into something that's pretty much the same size as what I'm working with now, if not a little smaller.
Right.
So it's like, how do you go about figuring out how much extra you wanted? Be it, I want 20% more than what I'm working with now. Was there a certain sort of number in mind with what you were using before and what you're moving into?
Quite honestly, I knew I wanted multiple rooms. I've been able to kind of finagle, like keeping all these different species and trying to manipulate temperatures and, which generally just ends up like moving the diamonds, from room to room based on the season.
You're an expert juggler.
Yeah. And I wanted to put an end to that. So I knew I wanted multiple rooms. And then I knew that I wanted it just wider than a typical shed. So if you were building like, a building on a slab, then I think you could, you'd have more to think about, I think. But for me, the reason that I wanted it, quote unquote, temporary, or not temporary, but portable. So technically this shed is portable. Like, so it could be moved.
Right.
And the reason that I wanted it that way is because when my wife and I, we've moved a lot. We've been married for it'll be 7 years now. And we've moved 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 times in 7 years. Right. And we've had I've had the snake collection the whole time. Right. Like, it's grown and whatever. But when you're house hunting, it makes like what I'm looking for in a house is solely, okay, where am I going to put the animals?
Yeah.
Like that's what I'm looking
That's what it was,
right?
for me when we were shopping.
Yeah. So she can show me like this gorgeous, beautiful house, and I'm just like, yeah, but where are we going to put the snakes? And it kind of became this area of contention, not necessarily that we were arguing about it, but I didn't want to have to start all over every time. Right. So every single house I had a different room that I had to figure out. I had to figure out where I was going to put stuff, where stuff would fit. And I didn't want to do that. So I was like, how great would it be if I built a room? One, it's out of our house, right? That makes everybody happy.
Mm-hmm.
2, it's dedicated, right? So it's built how you want it to. You're not taking a spare bedroom and trying to make it into something, right? It's like, no, like, I've got the outlets where I want them. I've got the power where I want them. I got different breakers. I got water. I got hose hookups indoors. Like, you're never going to have that in a guest bedroom, right?
Yeah, no one has a spigot in their upstairs hallway.
Right, yeah. And so I was like, so we'll build it for its purpose. And then if we ever move again, well, now, one, if we're showing the house, because this was the thing, right? When we were in Texas, it was like, there's no way we can show a house with a room in the garage full of snakes, right? Yeah. And so we moved completely out of the house before we ever listed it. And I was like, okay, well, now if we ever sell this house, we can just say that doesn't come with it. Like, we're taking that with us. So that's not an issue, right? So we've got freedom there. And then if we do, if we take it with us, well, now I don't have to start all over, at the next place, the next property, with a collection. So that was the thought. Will I ever move this building? I don't know. I don't know if I ever
TBD.
will. Yeah. But that was the thought of, that's why it's not on a permanent foundation. It wasn't built on a slab, all that. And
I'm sure you had way less physical permits as well because it was not a permanent structure.
Yeah, probably. I don't know. I don't know if that's true or not, but yeah, you're probably right. I mean, I pulled permits on it, and they said, yeah, sure. They just wanted to make sure it wasn't close to, they have certain setbacks from property lines, and
right.
Usually those are 5 or 10 feet,
Mm-hmm.
from property lines, and mine's 50 feet, from a property line. So
yeah.
So that was fine. They just said, don't build it over 20 feet tall, And then, like, that was the owner's stipulation. Like, it has to be under 20 feet tall. And then in my mind, I was like, oh, two floors? Should I do 2 stories?
Yeah.
So, but to answer your question, build it as big as you can. Because, like the commenter that just came up, you're never, ever going to say, oh, man, I wish I would have built it smaller. You're never going to say that, right? Yeah. You can always have more room.
There's just too much space.
Yeah, like, you're never going to say that. Yeah. And whereas, how many collections have you been to, or even, animal facilities, right? Like think of Prehistoric Pets. Have you ever watched their videos when they're pulling retech eggs, and he calls it the gauntlet, right? Okay, we're going through the gauntlet. It's like a hallway this big,
Yeah.
I feel like it's very easy to fill the space and
not realize
and so
it.
And not really. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Like you can do it very, very quickly.
Yeah.
Yeah. So one, I wanted to have the space to where I would I enjoy seeing my animals. And so I would love to have cages, and I'd love to have big cages. Right.
Sure.
But if I make 8-foot cages, you know, for my cynodon, it's like, that's good.
It's a lot of space.
That's a lot of space, you know?
Well, that's like Owen McIntyre always brings this up too, is like when he moved into his house, he didn't measure the room per se. He measured the floor space he would be able to walk around once the enclosures were in there. So, for example, if you've got a 10 by 10 room, just to make things even, right?
Yep.
You really don't, because you have to cut into the room. If you have a 10 by 10 cube and you cutting into the room at least 24, dare I say 26 inches, because you figure 2-foot depth of cage plus a couple inches as a buffer for maybe the stand it's on or wires.
Well, that and drywall too, if you've added that.
I'm talking inside the drywall, right? You know what I mean? But yeah,
and that's on both sides. So really, you're talking about 4 feet, like a minimum 4 feet.
Exactly.
And so that's where I was, you know, contemplating 12 feet or 14 feet, right? So if I go 14 feet wide, like you said, Justin, you got to take what, 3.5, 3, you got to take almost 8 inches for your 2x4, your walls and your drywall. And so now you're 13.5 feet, you know, or give or take, and then a little less than 13.5 feet. And then you got to take 4 feet off of that, you know? So, and then that's your walking around, that's your working space, you know? And that's at 14 feet, right? So if it was 12 feet, you know, now you're talking about like 6 feet of space. You know, I don't want to be able to reach my hands out and touch both cages, you know?
Well, that, and when you're a freaking Sasquatch like me too, you know, you got to have room to move around. And like, I have a little table in my room. And you know, it's just like, that's my biggest fear, is like getting a separate setup and trying to play by the wife's rules, and then I end up moving everything in. It's like I have less space than I did when I moved them out of the spare bedroom, and it's like I do need something a little bigger, like 10-20% larger than what I have currently, with maybe a little extra for any, you know, racks or cages I add to that down the road if I get Kim's, or if I get another, you know, XR20 or something from BlackBox. Like, you know, I want to be able to work comfortably, have enough space to where if, you know, I have more stuff coming, I gotta add a rack, babies, you know, hatchling racks, stuff like that. So that's just, I'm so worried that if I get something, I'm gonna end up being like, this is exactly what I was afraid would happen, you know?
Then
you know,
oh, sorry, go ahead.
No, you go ahead. I can remember my thought.
Okay, what I was gonna say is Billy Hunt and I have a very, very similar room layout in the respect of how the cages are, but nobody ever takes in consideration the doorway and the threshold. So you don't want the door to open in and it's smacking a cage, or do you have enough space to even put a cage behind the door per se? And then do you have anything else in there, like a garbage can for holding animals, a garbage can for garbage? Billy and I both have a wheelie cart that has all of our, you know, spray bottles and garbage bags and caddy for my snake hooks and all that crap. So like how much other stuff is in that floor space that you still need to negotiate around. So
yeah, I had so in Texas I had 2-foot cubes. How many? 2, 4, 6. I had 2-foot cubes from the floor to the ceiling, and so in order to clean the top, I had to have a ladder. And
it's like a library with the wheels and the
and then in you know, right now I've got a couple racks. You know, I've got a Vision 11 rack. I've got 2 Vision racks that are like 11 tubs tall, right? So to get to the top, I have a ladder. So it's just one more stupid thing to have in the room. In this room, I don't want any racks above waist high. I want racks waist high and lower, and I want cages above, right? Because I want to be able to see my animals. And so that's ideally what I want. And then my favorite animal rooms that I see are ones that have negative space, right? That have, like you said, a table or an office or you know, a spot like a photo, like a photo studio type area that's just set up. You don't have to tear it down and set it up and tear it down and set it up. You can just, it's there, you know, all the time. So all of that extra space, like I'd like to have space for a dedicated rain chamber, right? Where it's an enclosure, it's a rain chamber, and it's always there, you know? So I want to get away from trying to fill the space up, you know what I mean? But
Sure.
at the same time, it's a little bit of our nature, right? It's like, well, we've got space. 10 more animals isn't that much harder to take care of. Like, sure, let's do it. So I don't want to do that. And then, to bring up, a very well-known, reptile room, the Canova's facility at Justin's place. Like, you ask him, like, how much bigger is this facility than your previous one? And he said it's, or how many more animals, right? That's the question. Like, how many more animals do you have in this facility than you did in the other one? And he said, I don't have any more animals in this one than I did in the last one. It's just I have more space now, right? Like now, no matter where you go in his snake room, you're 15 feet away from a sink, right? Like, you don't have to go far to get to a sink and paper towels and things. And so that's one thing that I was trying to envision is like, okay, well, like, I want more space and I want it to be accessible and I want it to be efficient,
Yeah,
sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, my buddy Marcus just built a new venomous room because he wanted it to be like yours. He wanted it to be a particular way. Yeah. And one of the things that he insisted on was, so like I said, Billy and I have our wheelie cart. He wanted a legitimate prep table. He comes from the zoo world, and he got a stainless steel, sterile prep table that is like 3.5 by 2.5, right? And he sacrificed viable cage or enclosure real estate for this prep table, and it wound up being it's a godsend anyway, because you've got storage underneath, for the garbage bags and the spray bottles and all that crap. And now if he wants to lay out prey items, if he wants to assist feed something, if he wants to take, because he's got all his records and notes and everything's handwritten, if he wants to lay down a ledger, you've got a table to work with, so
I really want, like I want it to be my office, right? Like, I want it to be my office. I want it to be a place of refuge. I want it to be a place to work. I want it the place to be efficient and have the systems and be, So hopefully that's what it becomes. That's the goal. And
you're on the right path, man.
Yeah, when it's finished, I'd love to have you guys come up and,
absolutely,
and check it out. So.
Oh yeah.
After dealing with the grain mites and stuff on my table recently, like, you don't realize how much it sucks to not have a table until you don't have a table. Like, I didn't want to put anything on it because it'd get covered in grain mites within, half an hour. Finally got rid of them all. I had to throw away all my bug colonies, but like, I didn't want to put anything on there because I was like, if they get put on this and I put them, if I have a tub in a rack and I put the tub back in the rack, now that rack's going to get covered in them. And it's like, they're not harmful or anything like that, but they're a real pain. And it was so frustrating not having a table and being like, if I did put stuff on it, I'd lay down a puppy pad so that there was at least a buffer. And it was
dude, I had a culture of hornworms that I forgot about, and grain mites just exploded, and I
wild. They like show up overnight.
Dude, it was crazy. And now I have hundreds, if not thousands, of little white specks infesting this entire black, beautiful sea serpents rack. And like, they're on the snakes, they're on geckos that were in that rack, they're friggin' everywhere. And I literally wound up getting my vacuum and just vacuuming them up. Because like, there's no, and like, obviously they're going to die off. They're going to go away. They're not hurting anything, but still, like, who wants that?
Well, I had to, like I said, I had to toss my mealworm colony, my superworm colony, like everything, because they weren't going anywhere until those were trashed.
Yeah.
But I got rid of those, and then I got some like Clorox wipes or something, and just wiped down that table, like top to bottom, like every inch. And they've, so far it looks like they're all gone, and I am victorious. But
and I find myself setting things down on top of cages, right? Like, because I don't have anything to set stuff down on, right? So to set something down here or set something down there, or pull a tub and put it on top of the garbage can so that I can work on it, and it's just like, this isn't what I want, right? This isn't, and then I'm losing things because I don't remember where I put them. I'm blaming them on the kids, like, I went through 3 headlamps. I was certain my kids took them and hid them somewhere. And I got another headlamp, and I told them they couldn't touch it. And then and then I moved my toolbox, and I I found my other 3 headlamps, so yeah, just to have a place for everything and to have a system and all of that stuff, I'm really looking forward to, and having my level of care increase with the efficiency, right?
Yeah.
Like I want to be efficient. I want to be efficiently taking care of my animals to the best that I can, because that's another thing, when you're just trying to make something work, it's not efficient. It's not fair to the animal. It's not fair to my family, the time that it takes. And I am interested to see what the flow looks like, because this is the furthest away my animals will have ever been from the house, right? So the house that we were renting previously, the snakes were in a detached garage, but it was 50 feet from the bedroom door, whereas it's 100 feet from our back porch. So yeah, I'm really curious to see what the workflow is going to be. Right now kids go to sleep, I go into the garage and feed stuff after everybody's asleep and stuff, and then pop back in. But I think I'll have to be I'll have to be more intentional on setting time and tasks to do on each day.
Even the egg timer,
Right.
Yeah, that's as far as I'd want stuff to be, anyways. Because Jake had brought up at one point he was like, "Dude, we should just get a separate place and put our stuff there." And I'm like, "Well, I don't like having to drive to my collection, and then I worry about fires, because it's like if I'm not right there, then by the time we figure it out, the damage is done." And it would be nice and all, but it's just like I don't want to, especially with him living as far as he does from me.
Yeah.
He's like on the other side of the county, so it's like I don't want to have to drive 20 minutes, half an hour just to go take care of stuff. Like that's
it's a drag.
Pain,
Yeah.
And how often do you just do a walkthrough, right? Like you just do a walkthrough, right. You just look at, and then you're back out. And just last week I did that, and I found out one of my thermostats wasn't working, right? Like it showed it was reading 100% power, but everything was at room temperature. And it's really my fault. I need to have the high-low alarm set up on that, so that it would have alerted me. But it's one of those things, like if something like that happens, I mean, that makes me nervous having it far away. I don't see the benefit outweighing the cost. And but I know people that do it, but
yeah, I agree. And obviously, if you have particular circumstances that require you to do so, then that's not even talkable. But as a choice, I would much rather have things close to home.
Yeah, for sure.
And I'll tell you, just speaking about stuff in the room, so to speak, 2 of the best gifts I ever got in my life were from Anna Maria. She's wonderful. She bought me my Billy Hunt Willie cart, but she also got me my first chest freezer. And dude, what a lifesaver in so many regards. But have you made accommodations to have a chest freezer or even a refrigerator in the new building?
So I have a chest freezer now, and I went from having a fairly big one, like a 4-foot wide, chest freezer.
Sure.
I got rid of that one to get a much smaller one. So it's kind of like the smallest one you can get. It's like 20 inches wide, 3 feet tall.
Sure.
And that's enough. But what sucks is everything you need is at the bottom. Always. Like just if I need something, it's going to be at the bottom. Or I'll think I'm out of something and I'll assume like, oh man, I'm out of mice, but I've got plenty of small rats. I don't need to order small rats. I know they're in there. I order everything but small rats, and then I go to put it in there and there's no small rats. I just assumed they were in there in the bottom.
Yep.
They're not in there. So I do have a chest freezer. What I would like to do is get an upright freezer and put an upright freezer in there. That way, you got the pinkies on the door, you got the small rats on this shelf, the medium rats on this shelf, the chicks on this shelf. And just talking about the, efficiency, I think like that would be super nice. Again, that's a luxury for sure. But if I can pull that off and find a affordable upright freezer, that's what I'd like to do.
Jake and I are going to get one for Smith Farms at some point.
Nice. Like, yeah. Imagine if it was glass, like it was just nice.
Yeah.
And just, yeah.
Well, you can always find like they have those when the grocery stores they have the whole freezer aisle. Well, every so many years they ditch them. You just find a single unit, and you'll have your glass front with the door.
That would be cool. Yep, LED light when you open it up.
Facebook Marketplace, man.
Yep. Yeah.
Someone was selling a chest freezer for like $50 on there the other day, and Katie was like, "Oh, you should get it." I'm like, "I've literally been telling you I want one forever, and you have given me a hard time about where it would go." And I'm like, "Now you're telling me I can? Like, what? Is this a trick?"
So where are your rodents? Are they in your personal freezer, like in the refrigerator freezer?
When I have some in my freezer, yeah, they're in the kitchen in the freezer in a bag wrapped up, so my wife can't see their faces.
Okay. Yeah, I just assumed everybody had a freezer full of rodents like me, No,
I mean, anytime I have like a bulk amount, like my rodents are at my parents' house as far as like the breeding and stuff.
Oh, that's right. You raise your own. Yeah.
But we vacuum seal them and stuff. And then my parents have one of those upright freezers that they store, when shrimp season rolls around, they load up on shrimp and stuff, and I'll keep them in there. I have a separate little section in there that I'll keep mice in, and that thing works really well. But yeah, the upright ones are definitely nice, and I would prefer to have that if I had a choice, but got to work with what I got.
Sure. Yeah.
I did the small freezer on top of the refrigerator thing, like with the frozen Hot Pockets and whatever else the hell was in there for a long time. And then, like I said, Anna Maria got me that one. And it's kind of a blessing and a curse, because now you have the space to really put rodents. You're not taking away from human food space, but now you have the space to fill it. So your rodent bill was, X amount. Now it's triple because you want to fill it,
Yeah.
Well, I like the chest freezers and the fact that they open from the top. You don't have to worry about it not being closed all the way, because for a while I was keeping mice in the freezer. So my dad in the garage also has a fridge with a freezer on top, like a split, whatever, normal freezer refrigerator.
Right.
And there was a point in time where, for whatever reason, that door, you'd have to like slam the hell out of it to get it to close all the way. And there was a couple times where I had mice get like semi defrosted, and I don't know for how long, so I ended up having to pitch them. And that's when I started moving them into that stand-up freezer that he had. And, I don't think he was all that thrilled about it, but I was like, look, I keep having to throw away mice because of this one on top. But
I told my wife, when we were in an apartment, and again, I had all the rodents in the regular freezer, right next to the ice cream and everything. I said, every time I open the freezer, I hear you say that you love me, right? Because the snakes are not her thing. Rodents certainly are not her thing,
Right.
And I said, like, nothing tells me that you care about me and more than seeing a medium rat next to the, Haagen-Dazs, and but
that was an adjustment for mine at first when we first got the house and moved in and stuff. She wasn't all that thrilled about it. Now she's like my mom at this point. She's like, whatever, it is what it is. She's used to it, and she just.
But on those chest freezers, you got toddlers running around like I do. They love to turn dials, and my kids have more than once turned that dial all the way to the lowest setting, to where I'd open the freezer and I was like, it's like room temperature. Like, what's going on? And that's, oh my gosh. So I finally turned it to the temperature it needed to be, and then taped over it. So they
put a little one of those clear lock boxes over it, like they do with the thermostats, like corporate offices.
I just taped it over completely so they couldn't see it. But yeah, they love to do that. And then my radiant oil filled heater, they like to turn that dial too.
Of course.
So I've caught that on the low setting for quite a while. So I'm looking forward to getting rid of those heaters and having everything, dedicated out there. So
that was below the belt, Bill. Keep the gloves up.
But what did he say? I didn't see it.
He said another Smith family member with a door closing issue. Damn.
Man. How the rhinos doing?
Awesome.
Good.
Yeah.
Good.
Both of them eat without hesitation. I just drop I usually feed them live pinkies because that's just what I have on hand typically. And they both just destroy them. So
yeah. Man, once they get going, I love it. They're predators once they get going, man.
And their enclosures are shimmed, correct?
Yes.
Okay, good. just making sure. Just making sure.
Dude, I know I've told Terry this before, but like words cannot describe how bad I felt when that first rhino disappeared forever, and I had to tell him because I was like, that was a gift, and I was like, dude, I feel like such an ass. I was like,
for what it's worth,
gone, and it's long gone.
For what it's worth, it was a solid 10 days of, man, I can't believe this happened.
Yeah.
Like, what am I gonna do, man? Terry's gonna hate me forever, man. Like, solid 10 days.
Well, so a guy'd come down. Zach's his name. He's up in Charlotte. He got a rhino, and the next day he told me he'd lost it, and I was just like, okay.
So it's your rhinos. It's not us. It's just the snake.
Yeah,
that's what I'm getting from this. Then
I got the Houdini rhinos, I guess. Yeah, and he was just like, good. Again, it was, he was distraught and everything, and it had it a day, and I said, that's fine. Like, just let me see, let me know if you find it, or like, let me know, like, don't give up, that kind of thing. And then, like the next day I'd asked him about it, and he said, oh no, actually it was in the cage the whole time. I don't know where it was. He's like, we lost it. I looked everywhere in the cage. It was not in the cage. He said, then we had like, I don't know, like the next day they had dinner and they come back and it's basking, and wow. So I was like, all right, good deal. I had one, I used to have live pothos plants in the cages, and I thought I'd lost one. And I was just like, because I had an Envision cage, which I did lose one in a Envision cage through the sliding glass. And I was like, I thought I'd lost the other one. And I was like, no. I tore everything apart, couldn't find it, and everything. I was like, gosh, and put everything back. Fortunately, I closed the glass, and the snake was she was burrowed in the potted plant. She was burrowed in the dirt, and so eventually she came out, and there she was. But
yeah, one of my bigger ones was not. He's normally almost always out hanging out on the perches. So I was like, I didn't see him, and he wasn't in the water bowl, and so I was like, oh shit.
Yeah.
And so then I started digging around. He had buried himself in the cypress mulch. So I was like,
yeah,
okay, whatever. As long as you're in there, I don't care.
Yeah. And that's again, that's the nice thing about, building a dedicated room is it doesn't take that much to make a room snake proof,
Yeah.
Agreed.
And so it's nice, ideally
it was like $15 in a door sweep and shims. all my problems.
There you go. Yeah. And so then, when something's out or you can't find something or whatever, like, it's like, all right, well, it's here. You just have to find it.
Yeah.
But
yeah, that's
my best
the nice thing is, like, when something's loose, I know now for sure the likelihood of it being in that room is about 99.999%.
Yeah. My favorite story, again, a Rhino Rat Snake. It was in a Vision rack, lost it, and then it was a while later. I want to say it was like weeks later. That's when I was working on an oil rig, so I was 2 weeks on, 2 weeks off. So I'd be gone for 2 weeks at a time every month. And anyway, the Vision rack was like a cage or 2 cages away from my stack of bar cages that I had annulated tree boas in.
Mm-hmm.
And I had a 3/4 inch hole drilled into the side of the cage, and initially it was for a Miss King nozzle.
Yep.
But I just didn't have a nozzle in there. That's where I put my temperature probe, for my thermostat and everything. And I saw that the boa had shed. There's a shed skin in there, and I was like, oh, cool, okay, it shed. I'll pull that out. I pull it out, and the shed has a horn on it. And I'm just like looking at it, and I'm like, what is going on right now? And I lift the hide box, and there's the Rhino Rat Snake nestled up with the annulated tree boa. Had been in there for weeks while I was gone.
Wow.
But then it was like, oh, okay, this makes total sense. It got out of the rack, climbed across the cage, found that hole, went in, and just hung out.
The Milo and Otis of the Burwell house.
Yeah. Yeah. It was wild. That was a good find.
I love them to death. These things are just a freaking blast.
Yeah. And you got Barons too now, right?
I have one now, thanks to one Jason Keller.
Yeah.
Nice.
As much so for the longest time in our little group chat, I was talking about how it'll be impossible for me to love anything more than rhinos that are in that like rhino category, which basically is barons and rhinos. And so he ended up he gave me one of his holdback males, and he's like, keep this and let me know if your tune changes. And he's convinced that it will, and that I'll like the barons more than the rhinos. But
yeah,
I don't know. I mean, what's your
dude?
I'm
take convinced. I'm convinced you're gonna. I'm not saying anything.
They're completely different snakes for sure, right? And I hated on Barons racers for the longest time because I was like, they have a inferior horn, right? Their nose is inferior.
It's barely even a horn,
right? I mean, Phil, you're gonna get Gasparetti or you're gonna get Cerastes, right? I mean, the Cerastes is just an inferior horn, right?
Well, all right. So here's the thing: coming from someone who collectively owns like 25 Cerastes. One day I will have the Gasparettis.
Okay.
But the only reason why I have so many of the other ones is because I can't get fucking Gasparettis.
Right.
Here's a man who has both as well.
Oh, there you go.
Yeah.
Kevin in the house.
And so I hated on them for a long time, and then I ended up getting them, and it was like from I got a trio of babies, and the moment I got them, I was just like, this is a completely different snake, right? Like completely different. And which is obvious, right? I mean, it's of course it's on the opposite side of the world. It's a different environment, you know, it's of course it's different. But having not interacted with them very much, I don't know why I assumed them to be similar at all. But yeah, Barons racers are racers for sure. And
the one I have is quick. Like when that dude wants to move, man, he moves.
Just wait until they get 4 or 5 feet long, and they're still that fast. And it's so fortunate that they don't bite, right? Because they are so fast. They can be out and in your lap, but you know, before you know it, and you're just you know, bite the chick, you know, eat the mouse, don't eat me. And I've never had one even remotely think that it was going to bite me, right? And but their feeding response is something else. I mean, they're something else. So but yeah, I mean, I love them both. I think but I'll say this: I don't send a warning with when I in the package when I sell Rhino Rat Snakes, right?
That's
like
true.
At some point, I'm going to do a video when I've had more time with the Barons that sort of compares the two, and that's going to be. I think that's why Rhino Rats will always sort of top that list. Is like I can send these to someone and not have to worry about them doing something stupid and then being the first person to have a legitimate medically significant bite. With at least a big adult. Like I've seen some really big Barons, and it's like just like with a lot of the Boiga, like some of the huge melanota, it's like you get bit by that thing, man, you're gonna feel it. Like you're gonna have a reaction. I don't care what you say. You're gonna something's gonna happen.
And I so last year being the first year that I ever sold any, I was just like, and all mine are blue. So I'm like, okay, did somebody just find a blue snake on Morph Market and want to buy it? You know, and they don't know about it because and so I sent this disclaimer essentially, you know, and it basically boils down. It says, you know, I don't think you're in any danger, but there are some things that I would never do with this snake, right? I would never hand this snake to a minor. I would never, you know, free handle this snake, you know, and watch TV, you know, like that's not what this animal is for. That's not what I recommend doing. And then there's a paper that I cite, that talks about the effects of Philodryas venom on humans, and I just cite the paper. I'm just like, you know, do some research if you don't already know, right? Like, and I want you to know that I don't think you're in danger, but
you should probably be paying attention to what you're doing.
Absolutely, don't be dumb, right? Like, you know,
if you're allergic to yellow jackets, don't finger feed this snake.
So anyway, and because I want I'd hate for anything to happen, and people just thought that I just thought it was a regular. I just thought it was a snake.
Thought it was a rhino rat.
Right. Yeah. So.
Yeah, my buttermilk racer bites me every day.
Yeah, exactly. It's not something that I would do. And same with the Boiga, man. I do not handle my melanata. I don't handle them ever. And I just don't do it. But I don't like being bitten by anything, So yeah, I just try to stay out of that. Try to stay away from that end of the animal.
That's why we have hooks.
That's right. But man, they are such cool animals. And like I said, I got the blues, and I probably never would have been interested in the browns, but now that now I'm kind of like, the browns look pretty cool too. I could see getting into some browns, and watching their behaviors and everything. Like a Rhino Rat Snake will watch you, but a Barons racer will follow you. I mean, it's up on the glass. It's waiting for food. It's just like it's on crack. Like like I said, they're racers for sure.
Yeah, the rhinos just crack me up, man, because I'll walk in my room and I have mine in the BioG cages, and I posted a reel, I think yesterday. I walked in the room and like they were each on their perch that comes out of the back of the cage, like into the middle of the cage, like all sitting exactly the same. Yeah. And it's just like I have one male in particular that's Katie's favorite snake in the room, I think. And he's always out. And you walk in and you can just see him just sitting there watching everything you're doing. And they're just, I don't know, man, like they were a dream snake for me as a kid, like early 2000s. I remember seeing them in the Pro Exotic ads and stuff, and I thought it was just like the coolest thing. And I was like, there's no way I'm ever gonna have those, because nobody had them at the time except
they were $1,200. Yeah, they're $1,200 a piece. Yeah,
and then to now have 5 of them, it's just they're freaking cool, and they're just they're awesome snakes. I mean, my daughter, she had some friends over earlier, and we pulled out that same male that's always chilling, and they're cool snakes, because I've never had one even try to bite me.
Right.
Except for that first one I got from you initially when I pulled it out of the cup. But they're all just super, super mellow,
Yeah. And the same way, like if somebody comes over and like to visit, I'm getting 2 snakes out for them to see and hold if they want. And that's a Rhino Rat Snake and the Sumatran python. Like, because I have full confidence in those animals. They're very the Rhino Rat Snake is just super unoffensive, I mean, it's green. It's what you want a snake to be, It's green, it's arboreal, it's diurnal, it's it's slow moving, like it's inquisitive. And then the Sumatran python is all of those things, just in a bigger derpy package,
Yeah.
And so I always pull those 2 out if people come over, and they're always a hit for sure. So
nice.
Ty asked, has there been any serious envenomations? Is it similar? Philodryas. So in the venomous bites from non-venomous snakes book that I have, it talks about Philodryas, but it talks about Ulfrisi mostly, which I think of that genus is kind of the hottest of the lot, if that's what you want to, I guess, call them. But
sure.
No, as far as I know, no one even keeps those. But it sounds like there have been some fairly decent effects from those. But I'll have to go back and look. I don't think it mentions Baroni in particular in anything. It's mostly the Ulfrisi or Ulfrisi, whatever you want to call it.
Ulfrisi, yeah. I thought that the taxonomic. Oh no, I was thinking of a different one. I was thinking the taxonomy changed. But it has not. I had thought that they'd taken them out of Philodryas.
I can't wait for that second edition of that book. I need to pre-order mine.
Which one?
That venomous bites from non-venomous snakes. They're coming out with another edition in June. It was initially supposed to come out in like March, but it got punted. So it comes out in June now, and it's such a good book.
Yeah. Memory serves me right. The worst cases, I think, from the Barons were like intense localized swelling and like capillary disruption, like capillaries popping and shit.
Mm-hmm.
But as far as I know, I don't think anything medically significant, like torso wise, was really a factor.
Mm-hmm.
Ty said the new edition will have new taxa.
I'm just now seeing the I was in the private chat the whole time. Now I'm just now seeing the comments. I'm like,
oh. Graham Madison's here too, so shout out to Graham.
Yeah. Heck yeah. What's up, Graham? I'm gonna grab some water. I'll be right back.
All right.
Yeah.
Like a mild boom slang envenomation. Does that even exist?
Yeah, I mean, I guess you could say that it would be similar to boom slang in terms of like its physical appearance and perhaps a pain tolerance, because from what I've heard, boom slangs aren't as painful as they're made out to be from, the stories I've heard. Obviously, I've never been bit by one, but
so you don't think that's a challenge on that?
Yeah, definitely not. But from what I gather, the boom slang clinical effects in terms of the distribution of the venom is far more dynamic than that of the Barons. It's almost like the boom slang travels way better than the Barons. The Barons kind of is like, okay, your arm got it. You got it in the bicep because it's got some fatty muscle there and stuff. But like I remember seeing somebody got bit in like the index finger from a Barons, and I know they had like localized swelling, and perhaps this person was a little more pale than most, but you could see where certain capillaries had ruptured and like hemoglobin had really started to like be noticeable through the skin, so to speak. But again, I'm going off memory
real quick and let me look.
Yeah, grab the book. Go for it.
Wasn't it the boom slang bite report of the was it the boom slang or the Nornis, the twig snake that the guy, they didn't think it was dangerous and then he was bitten by it and he just started. It was the boom slang, right? And he probably wasn't in a lot of pain because my goodness, he just kept writing until the words just kind of fall off the page.
Yeah, and from what I gather, and somebody please correct me, it was several days of writing before he finally, did it.
Yeah, that's how I remember it. But, yeah, man, I never want to have to be in that position. When I was working at Kentucky Reptile Zoo, volunteering rather, but Jim was bitten by a Mojave rattlesnake,
right?
And just grazed,
which I consider, in my personal opinion, the most toxic thing in North America. People will fight me on that, but like just seeing some of the stuff I've seen, no, thank you. But go on, sorry.
I mean, he was just grazed through anyway. So the hospital is 30 minutes away, and at 100 miles an hour, it's 30 minutes away. So so they made it to the hospital relatively quickly, and he had, he's recounting it afterwards, and he said I was this close to asking to be intubated, right? Like I thought, like my lungs were done, or the diaphragm was done.
Yeah.
And he was in the hospital overnight, came back the next day. No necrosis, no pain, no anything. It was like that was it, right? And Robert was the Thenors and Carshmo. Did Robert write? I'm sorry, I'm responding to a comment that said Robert Mertens was the Tornist.
So
did he write a report as well?
I don't know if he had to have written a report.
Carl Schmidt is the one that we're talking about for sure.
Yeah, Carl Schmidt was the guy who wrote the boom slang.
Anyway, okay, and then so that was the Mojave, and we were like, I was pretty young and impressionable, and I just thought that's what a venomous bite is like. And he was very cautious to be like, this is not normal. This is not like, don't think that it's just 24 hours in the hospital and you're out and it's back to real life. And then later, he was bitten by a Bothrops atrox.
Oof.
And I feel like he's still suffering side effects from that to this day. Like that was I didn't see him outside of the house. I mean, that was rough. That was like no thank you. No, thank you.
Both of those species are rough, man. Real rough. So, and then you look at certain other species that have multiple reports written on, I mean, I'm going to say general prognosis, but something like the Araquan, right? The
Yeah.
Vagrandus.
Yeah.
So there's certain populations of Vagrandus that are more neurotoxic in their capabilities.
Mm-hmm.
And so the pain is extremely minuscule. Like, ow, my finger hurts. That's about it. And you're like, oh, I got bit by a rattlesnake. I must be all right. And then like 30, 40 minutes later, you're out because like synapses are just turning off, you know?
Yeah. Yeah.
So.
Yeah. I don't like reading those bite reports. I don't like none of them sound fun.
Yeah. I mean, it's good to read that stuff about the things you keep because it's a reminder of what you're keeping, you know?
Right. Yeah, for sure.
So, you know, and that's one of the things that has really kept me apprehensive on the Teletornus is that there's no antivenom, you know?
Mm-hmm.
So that's something that it really does pique my fascination because I do want to get involved in more venomous colubrids,
mm-hmm.
but sometimes the juice ain't worth the squeeze, you know?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So,
yeah. I hear you.
Yeah.
What are you finding over there, Justin?
So this talks about Philodryas patagoniensis and then the Ulfarsea. Apparently, so there's from 1996. There's a reported fatality from the Ulfarsea, but it says that it's anecdotal. 2 bites bites reportedly inflicted on 2 children, with one of them purportedly succumbing to the effects of the bite. Let's see.
Yeah, a lot of those. You said it was 1996.
Yeah.
I mean, that's still modern. I wouldn't discredit it too much, but like I know there's a lot of issues with South American envenomations is wrong ID,
right?
You know, and cases where guys got bit by Epicrates and they swore it was a fertile ants and they're going to die, and literally nothing happens because they got bit by a boa, or vice versa. I got bit by a boa and then they dropped dead because it was really a terciopelo.
Yeah, and that's what they're saying here is that it must be considered that the bite may have been inflicted by a crotalene because some, such as the Bothriopsis, the bilineata, are known in similar.
I can see that.
So sure.
Yeah, I can see that being confused. When we were in Peru, one of my favorite capture stories is I'd found a snake. It was a green snake, a long green snake, about 20 feet up in a tree.
Mm-hmm.
And I posted about this on my Instagram the other day. And there was what was so interesting about that trip, right, is to learn all the species it would have taken a lot of study, right? So you go to somewhere new, it's a lot easier to study the 3 snakes that are dangerous,
Sure.
than it is the all whatever 50, 60 species that are there.
Right.
And so we're in southern Peru. We got there's the Bushmaster, the the bilineata, the 2-line forest viper, like those pretty easy enigmatic species, right? The one that was you got your coral snakes, easy enough, but there was the Philodryas ulfarsii was there. And in Duhlmann's book, Cusco Amazonico, it talks about it being responsible for a fatality, right? And so we're looking at this snake and we're like, it could be that snake, right? I mean, you couldn't identify it from 20 feet away. We're like, and it's dark, right? It's the middle of the night.
Oh yeah.
And we're like, it's probably not, right? This is great bush knowledge, right? It's their like logic. Right? We're just like, it's probably not, because if it were, we shouldn't catch it. But if it wasn't, then we definitely need to catch it.
It's like, is it a rhino or is it a cow?
Yeah. And so I climbed up the tree and we caught it, and it was a Chironius multiventris is one of those whip snakes, and and it was a good thing because that thing, there's a picture on my my YouTube channel, or a video of me releasing it. And when I pull it out of the bag, it tags me like 5 times in 10 seconds, you know,
Wow.
like before I can do anything, just pop, 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 you know. But that snake reminded me of Clint Eastwood, man. He didn't take no lip.
Nice.
But,
that's awesome. Mm-hmm. Yeah, man. You always hear stories of, you know, guys that, you know, find some unique snake and they do the same thing. They say, oh, there's only 5 species of venomous snakes in this area and everything else is, you don't got to worry about it. And they find something like the Ninia, the coffee snake, right? And they're like, oh, look at this pretty little coffee snake, and they're holding it and like it just bites them on the finger, and they're not realizing that it's an aberrant coral. You know, it happened to not have those bands for whatever reason, and then they're looking at pictures of the hospital going, oh shit, what do we just do?
Yeah. So, well, who was it? Oh gosh, I know you know who it is. Joe. Who was it that died in Myanmar from a crate bite?
Oh,
on 9/11.
I don't know.
I know who you're talking about. I read the book.
What's the book? It's not. Just name all the books. It's not.
Can't even remember the name of the title.
Slowinski. Yeah, it's Joe Slowinski.
Yeah.
Thank you, Graham. Yeah, he, you know, his thanks, Henry. Henry's quick on that. So, yeah, you know, one of his aides, I don't know, grad student, whatever, there's some dude helping him in this expedition. Is like, hey, I found this snake, and I don't know if there's a wolf snake.
Yeah,
I don't know if it's is it a wolf snake?
Yeah,
and
it's
and
a
the
type of
crate,
lycanon.
and the like only differentiating factor between them is like an extra L'Oreal scale or something. You know, it's very minuscule. And Joe just dumps the snake out in his hand, you know, and it's a crate, you know. So I mean, terrible.
Yeah.
But
this book has Philodryas listed as hazard level 3. I'm trying to figure out what the credentials are for that.
Oh. As per the genus.
Yeah, and I think that's fairly low because I think they have all the like really serious stuff labeled as hazard level 1. So
interesting. Well, let me ask you this: you, as a keeper of rear fang, whatever you want to call it, and having worked with lots of full-blown venomous stuff, do you ever find yourself having accidentally slipped up and like grab a Baron as it's racing out of the tub, and like catch yourself doing mistakes like that, or no?
So I don't. So yes, I have done that. I've grabbed Barons as they flew out of the cage.
Yeah.
I don't work them exclusively with hooks.
Sure.
I let them know they're not being fed, right?
Right.
And and usually will then you know, extract them with you know, my hands after that. But I don't know that I would be the greatest venomous keeper because of the discipline involved, right?
Sure. Right. Well, and that's, you pretty much answered my question, because, like, for example, you know, Barons, I wouldn't sweat it too much. Like, I would do what you do, make sure that they know that it's not feeding time, and then once they realize that my hand isn't a prey item, I would probably use my hands and put them in a container for cleaning or whatever.
Yeah.
But like I just had recently, I opened the drawer. I'm raising some baby telescopus. Well, baby, they're probably a year old by now, and they never run away. They kind of just hide and chill. For whatever reason, I went to miss the tub, and that thing shot out like a bat out of hell. And which is, I would have never done this if I was in the venomous room. And like, I mean, I can confidently say it, but I literally was just like, and just grabbed it, and it like did this, you know, and I was like, oh, what am I doing? And like, just threw it back in the tub, you know. But there was that quick moment of like, was I really in danger?
Yeah.
But again, I shouldn't have done it like that. But I know it's the mindset. It's because I'm not in the venomous room. I don't think like that. Yeah. I mean, I want to get your opinion on it.
Remind me what telescopus is.
Cats, African cat snake.
Wannabe cat snakes.
Wannabe. They are the cat-eyed snakes.
Just they're distant relatives of the Toxicodryas, Boiga clade.
It's not the Madagascar. Is it the Madagascans?
No,
Madagascar.
No,
just the mainland
very
ones?
different.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
These are literally like desert Boiga kind of.
Yeah.
Right. Right. Yeah. Yeah, and I've heard people say that, that keep both is they never work non-venomous and venomous on the same day. Like they never go work their non-venomous stuff and then go into the venomous room.
Sure.
Right. And even Jim before he extracted and stuff, he would take time. He studies martial arts and so say it's a form of meditation or whatever.
Right.
But
right.
he was very into centering himself and doing that kind of thing before he started working venomous snakes too. So I think it's how many times do we talk about complacency and venomous snake keeping, and so I hear you.
Yeah, I also think that real quick, Justin, sorry. I also think that at least for me, there is a false sense of security with being in the venomous room because I know that God forbid it got away from me, it ain't going anywhere because the room's escape proof. While as the telescopus I have in my bedroom, so I don't want it.
Got to grab it. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I don't want it going into the bed. I don't want the dachshund, biting it. So.
Yeah.
So the conclusion this has on Philodryas says a small number of well-documented cases of medically significant bites from Philodryas, primarily Ulfrisi, baroni, and patagoniensis, describe only mild to moderate local effects resulting from these incidents. Uncommon cases that include systemic effects have occurred but are rarely documented. However, data characterizing several
big word, that's all right.
Fibrinogenolytic enzymes and myotoxins suggest that larger specimens of these species may be capable of inflicting a bite resulting in significant systemic effects. So basically what we were saying, like you get a big ass Barons and you get bit by it, you're probably going to know.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I imagine it would have similar, dare I say, side effects like other South American rear fang stuff, the nausea, the fever, the maybe cold sweats. I imagine those would attribute to it as well.
Yeah, hope I never have to find out. That's for sure.
Right.
Yeah.
No.
But heck yeah.
I freaking love that book, man. I can't speak highly enough of that book.
That seems cool. I haven't read that one.
Yeah, can you when we're done with the show, can you send me and Terry the link for the pre-order of the new one?
Yes,
because I've been waiting to buy it. I didn't buy that one because by the time that we were all looking at buying it, you got yours. They had already talked about the new one, so I was like, you know what, I'll just wait. So, and it's cheaper to actually buy it from the publisher itself, right?
I think Wyman said it was. Yeah.
Okay.
I have to double check. He sent me the link. Like you can buy it straight from Elsevier or whatever the brand is, the publisher.
Sure.
Okay. All right. Right on.
Elsevier. I don't know. I'm not Italian or Russian or whatever that language is. Capiche? You know what that means? No, you don't. That's because that's Russian.
That's the new emoji. Everyone's using this emoji now.
My daughter just listened. She watched a full hour of Daniel Tiger in Spanish. My wife said today.
Really?
Yeah. And my wife was like, "Do you want me to change it?" Like she put it on accident. She said, "Do you want me to change it?" My daughter's like, "No, I understand it." And then later she's like, "Do you want me to change it?" And she was like, "Next episode." Like the worst thing my daughter wants you to do is turn the television off.
Right.
And so today I was asking her about it, and then I was like, "Did you learn anything? Like what?" And then she just started counting in Spanish. She was just like, "Cuatro, cinco, seis." And I was like, "Hey, TV for the win,"
Yeah, right.
Yeah, that's funny.
Well, I swear, my kid brother, he's a super duper tech guy. He's actually a programmer.
Yeah.
And when he was growing up, I told everyone, I was like, look, man, he's brilliant, and he learned to read playing Zelda.
Yeah.
Because there
Yeah,
was
because of all the text. Yeah.
the text boxes. Yeah.
Yeah.
That was it.
That's so funny. Yeah. Yeah. Oh man, that's funny. But
well, gentlemen, is there anything else we wanted to touch base on this evening?
I was asked to post a link to the book in the chat, so I'm going to grab that real quick.
Oh yeah,
okay.
Awesome.
All right.
Awesome. Future projects, Terry?
Well, what I'm really hopeful for this year is a litter of annulated boas. Super hopeful for that. I bred one of the offspring back. So I held back the highest white offspring that I'd received in my first litter. It's a male, so I bred it back to the female this year, and she's acting different. So I've got some confirmed locks, and then she's acting really well. She's acting very different than she did last year. She didn't go last year. She fasted most of the year. This year, the first 3 months of the year, she's just been eating like crazy. So I'm hoping that turns into a litter. I really hope that turns into a litter. I'm really excited to see if that white is going to get accentuated. So basically, I'm line breeding for the white, and if there's any that are more white than the male, they're going to be pretty phenomenal. But I'll
Real
take
quick,
any. Yeah.
If you buy the book, if you pre-order on Elsevier's, the publisher's website, it is $20 cheaper. So it's $106 on their website, and it's $125 on Amazon. So
nice.
And so I'll take any annulated boa. I mean, any of them are great, but I'm really interested in that project just because it's a line breeding project that I've kind of been thinking about for the last 7 years. And then short tail pythons, I've got a pair of those that I actually purchased the female gravid, and I didn't know it, and neither did the seller. And she laid some eggs. They weren't good or they went bad because I was on vacation. When I came back, they had, anyway, I incubated them. None of them hatched. And then she didn't go the following year, and which was last year. So I'm really hoping that she goes this year. I'd love to get some baby Sumatran pythons.
How are the Sabus doing?
I've got the Sabus paired up again. The female that went last year, I don't think she's gonna go. I have to go back and see my records. But the other female, who's the imported female, I thought she was gonna go, but the jury's still out. So I've got them paired, but so that female laid last year at the end of April. So I guess we're not too far off of that right now, but I keep watching that other female. She's big and she's looking good, and I've seen courtship for sure, cool. But I saw all of that stuff in her last year too, and it didn't result in anything. So, so we'll see. But I kept all the babies from last year, and that's a cool snake. Like I'm very interested in Liasis after keeping these and breeding these. They're very, very interesting.
I wanted Sabus as a kid so bad, man.
Mm-hmm.
And they were actually available at that point.
I was going to say you should have got them when you were a kid, because they would have been a whole lot cheaper.
I was working.
And yeah.
Yeah, man.
But yeah, really, really like those. Man, the babies, when they eat, they tackle the prey item and use their entire body to do the king snake thing, where the entire body. Yeah. And
all your babies were red?
I had
like rusty.
Yes, there was one. There was one that looked a little bit different, and I thought maybe, I sent a picture of it to Gary and asked him, is this a silver savu, right? And he said his silvers hatched out the same as all the others.
Okay.
But that animal, for whatever reason, that animal passed. And so I don't know what that is, but in the ones that I have, there are some that are very dark already, and there are some that are still that rusty peachy color.
Nice.
So
nice.
So I don't know. It'll be really interesting to see what phenotype comes out of that.
That's cool, man. And do you know exactly? I mean, obviously not gram weight or whatever, but do you know how big your female is, like in relation to some of the other ones you've seen over the years? Because I feel like there's a lot of people that try and breed them too. In my opinion, I don't keep them, but a lot of people try and breed them too young, where they think they're the right age, they think they're the right size, and it just doesn't pan out. You know what I mean?
Yeah. I don't know. I will say these snakes are 10 years old. So one of my really good friends, he's had them for over a decade, and I asked him if I could try to breed them, and he said yeah. So there could be something to that for sure. I couldn't tell you like a gram weight of what they are.
Yeah, no, you answered my question, man. Yeah, it's 10 years old, regardless. It's ready,
Yeah.
I just remember guys getting, back in 09, maybe 08, guys getting import adults that they thought were adults, and it's like, oh, this is what the book says it gets to be, and like they put them together, and like they get 2 micro slugs, and that's it,
Yeah.
And it makes me wonder if they need that extra time to develop, for lack of a better word.
And there could be too, the Barkers talked about wild caught female pythons being extremely difficult to breed because they just don't cycle, or for whatever reason, and so there could be something. So the snake that I have bred and got eggs from last year, she's captive born, and the one that I haven't is imported. So there might be something to that as well,
Sure.
And the imported snake is bigger, she's bigger. I'm hoping that she goes. The world needs more savu pythons for sure.
They do. The world does.
Yeah. And let's see, I'm hoping I've this other rough scale python. I'm hoping that they're going to go. There'd be a virgin female that I've never bred before. I'm really excited about that. I was just telling somebody at work today because I showed her that video of the snake laying eggs, and she was asking me about why I like that snake, right? And I like that snake because of the story. And
of course.
And I was just recounting that of like when I was at the reptile zoo, we had talked about, hey, how cool would it be to have a rough scale python? And I was like, maybe we would see one in a zoo in Australia someday.
Yeah.
But that's as close as we are ever going to get to a rough scale python, And now, I've got my 4th clutch in the incubator right now. Like it blows my mind. It just
right.
So
literally living the dream.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
Yeah. And Gillen puts, I completely forgot to ask you, how are the Angolans, man?
The Angolans?
I forgot you had those too.
I don't know. Again, I want to see when they laid. I think they would have already laid. They laid in April and June, March and July, and then April and June. So March and July 2020, and April and June 2021. So I think they could have used a little better conditioning in preparation. So I tried to kind of make up for that. But they're paired up. But I don't know yet. The jury's out on those. So,
I didn't have an appreciation for those until I held the one that Casey got at Daytona last year. Then it made sense. Then I was like, okay.
Was it an adult?
No, it was a youngster.
Baby.
It was a young one.
Yeah.
For me, it was holding an adult. So the babies, I was just like, okay. But putting an adult female in my hand, it was like, okay, because the stigma is that it's a bumpy ball python, you know.
Right.
Sure.
And the reality is that it's not.
It's not
it
at all.
It doesn't act like a ball python. It doesn't move like a ball python. Its body shape isn't like a ball. Its head is the closest thing to a ball python that it shares, you know.
Right.
And
ironically enough, their closest relative is rock pythons, isn't it?
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah.
Which is so strange because they're so far apart in terms of like everything, you know.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
But
except for color.
Yeah. I think they do have a particular color pattern, but my females are big. I mean, my females are probably 5 feet long, you know, so
nice.
they're a sizable animal. And so yeah, hoping to have, like I said, more of those, trying to get more of those, but I think I could have conditioned the females a lot better before I started them.
Okay.
So
how are the babies to get started on those? Are they pretty straightforward?
Some of them are great. Some of them are fantastic. And I've got one now. I had two that I've had to assist feed for quite some time. And here's the other thing too. I don't, you know, I got a full-time job. I got my kids that I try to, you know, I try not to ever choose the snakes over the kids. Right.
Sure.
So what I'm saying is I don't spend a lot of time with my animals. And so the animals that really need it, so the animals that need assist feeding or they need a little bit extra, you know, care, I probably could have got those started 3 months ago, you know, or 6 months ago. But instead, I'm still doing it because I just haven't been focused on it as much. But I do have one that I'm not assist feeding. So what I do is I take and I was going to mention this when we were talking about assist feeding. I'll take a mouse tail, like from a small mouse, and I'll feed that to it, which is a ridiculously small meal. Like it's not a meal. It's like dental floss for this snake.
Yeah.
But it will it'll take it. It'll take it.
Yeah.
And as it's taking that, I'll put a small mouse in its mouth.
Yeah.
And since it's already eating, it'll take it and it'll constrict it. It'll consume it.
Well, I was going to ask you too, have you tried doing the brown paper bag with a hopper thing?
What about ASFs?
I have not.
See, I would get worried with the ASFs because that's like the infamous gerbil trick where it's like, oh, my ball python won't eat. We'll give it a gerbil, and then it never eats anything ever again because it only wants wild gerbils, you know. And I know that sounds cockamamie, and for 99% of the animals that we keep in herpetoculture, that's a fallacy. But I would be afraid that if you gave a soft fur to an Angolan, it would be a very stubborn feeder from that point on.
It's had caviar. Why does it want to go back to clam strips?
Exactly. Yeah. And it's way more natural of a prey item. I mean, I don't know if African soft furs come from, you know, southeastern Angola, but
I don't know. I don't know. And switching it is, I mean, I've fed them quail before. I've fed them quail, and then they ate mice. So I think really, and I think true, especially probably for juveniles, what a snake eats when it's a juvenile is not what it eats the rest of its life, right? Like that's true for maybe arguably maybe all species of snakes, right? What it eats as a juvenile is not the same. And so I'm not hesitant to feed it something because I think it'll get stuck on it if I think it'll eat it, you know. So some of them are fantastic. Some of them eat like crazy and they're off to the races and it's wonderful. But some of them aren't too, you know. Some of them take a little bit more time.
Yeah.
But they can handle it, you know. They generally do very, very well. It's so crazy too that sometimes, you know, these got these huge eggs, and baby ball python was bigger than some of my Angolans this year, and it was just, I don't know, it was kind of strange. But yeah, love that snake. That's another one that needs to be more represented. And I had planned on keeping all my females back this year, but I people kept inquiring, and then the building was taking more money. Than
you had
I
to make the
planned.
hard decision.
Yeah. So I ended up selling them all. So
you got to make more, man, because my goal is to get one from you and one from Bender, and then eventually when Casey grows his up, I'll get one from him or two from him and splice it all up.
Yeah.
That's the goal. So
yeah, heck yeah. I don't know if Brett's are going this year or not. I don't know if he's given his female a year off or not, but yeah, so we'll see. But if not this year, I think certainly next year, because
excellent.
They pack on the calories really, really well.
Cool.
So
yeah, they seem like they'd be pretty sturdy as far as breeders go. Like really not a lot of hassle in terms of getting them conditioned and ready. Like they seem like they'd be pretty easy to.
Of course, man, they're African.
Man.
Yeah. And then I'm hoping this year to breed Melanata for the first time.
Nice.
The 4 that I've been growing up, I've got a female that's older and she's bigger. She's like 5-6 feet long. And I paired her with a male last year, and it didn't go well. The male freaked out at me, and then she bit the male. And so I was trying to rescue him from her while he was trying to kill me. And it was just a fiasco. So, so I have not paired any males with her again, but I do have smaller females, and I've gotten locks on both of those females. So I'm not feeling follicles yet. I don't know necessarily if they're cycling, but that would be nice. That'd be super nice to get some Melanata. And I've got some Lotta fasciata that I really want to pair. I've paired them. I don't think the female's ready yet, but they'll get there. They'll get there. So.
I knew there was going to be a curveball tonight. He just threw it.
the Lotta fasciata.
Yeah, I did not expect that. That's awesome, man.
Yeah. Super excited about those. Those are one of my favorite species of Boiga for sure. And I had the oldest pair that had come into the country, and I'd gotten infertile eggs from them 2 years in a row, and I read everything that I could on papers about them and other Boiga species, and I had a plan, and I knew that 2020 was going to be the year. And you can actually go back to my Instagram stories and you can see the last post I made of that snake, and I said something like, "This is going to be the year, and we're going to get Lotta fasciata eggs," and she died later that day.
Oh,
like I just like I don't know what happened. So I had ended up selling my male after that, and then late last year or early this year, I think. Anyway, I ended up tracking down another pair, and was fortunate enough to get another pair. So yeah,
cool.
I'd really like some of those. I think those are so beautiful, and I really enjoy those.
I wish we had what is it, Multicincta?
Yeah, there's Multicincta in it.
There's not a ton of them though. Those are some of the coolest looking dendros.
Yeah, those are really neat. Brian Barczyk has some, and I know he's bred Melanata, so I don't know how much different they would be to breed, but yeah, hopefully he's got, he has success with those. But that's what I'm saying. I think I hate to bring it back to Boiga, but I'm so excited for that genus because it's something that I've been so interested in for so long, and we've been so limited to just 3 species, Yeah. And now it's like the floodgates are open. It's like, I mean, anything you want, it's getting, they're being captive born, and people are figuring them out. So that's pretty cool. So yeah, so I'm super excited about those things. Excited for Barron's racers again. I got my rhinos paired up. I got into ball pythons last year. I'm really excited about some of the projects that I'm starting with those. And just kind of taking it, it's kind of interesting when I think of the building, and I think, oh man, I've got all this space, I can add more projects. Like, what am I going to do? And really most of what I'm thinking of is just holdbacks. It's just, I'm excited about holding stuff back and growing it for the future, and
it's the way to do it, man.
Yeah, getting better at what I'm already keeping, type stuff.
Nice.
Yeah. So I'm not gonna sell all my diamonds this year. Like, I am keeping some of my diamonds. So
cool, man.
But yeah,
good shit.
But yeah. So we'll see.
Well, where can people follow what you're doing if they want to?
Best thing, I just go to Instagram. Terry Burwell on Instagram is the best way. There's the TB Snakes Facebook page, but as much as I move, I thought about changing my name to Nomad Reptiles or something. But
nice.
But anyway, yeah, Instagram I think is the best deal. So yeah,
awesome,
good stuff, brother. Good stuff.
Thanks for having me on. It's fun.
Yeah, man.
Yeah, thanks for doing it so short notice.
Yeah. I was like, well, yeah. I was like, that'd be fun. I could do that.
Like, see what Gary's doing. I was like, I'll text him right now.
Happy to do it.
Awesome, man.
This was episode 116 of Snakes and Stogies, brought to you by BlackBoxCages.com and Puget Sound Pythons. Give both of them a follow, Facebook, Instagram. Even Terry has some black box cages, and that should say everything right there. If Terry's got shit, they must be legit.
Right.
Yes,
that's right. I get my stamp of approval. Yeah.
Awesome.
We'll be back for THP Thursday. Our buddy Dylan Peerless is joining us. He does some like dog aversion training for snakes. So we're gonna have an episode on that. Really excited about it. And then I was actually talking to TJ Chambers today about the following week after that. So I think we might have a Scrub/Morelia episode with him later in the month, because he's got some really, really awesome stuff. And he's a fellow drummer as well. So I might get into some of that while we're at it. So
cool, man.
Yeah, it's a good show. I really enjoyed it.
Good stuff.
Well, take care, guys.
Everyone have a good evening.
Bye.
I was going to say, I was waiting for it. I was like, Phil, what are you doing, dude?
Well, I got to make sure that you're done, like, doing your spiel, and then I can say goodbye.
All right. Well, we're really leaving now, so.
All right. Adios.
Bye.